Yes, indeed. It's another Saturday night. Therefore, it's another Saturday night Shoot the Breeze. I want to thank everyone who participated last week, both on the panel and in the chat. I forgot to check in on him, but last week Black Steel was ill and he left early. I was supposed to check up on him during the week. I hope he's okay. If you're hearing my voice, just accept my apologies. I forgot to check in on you during the week. But I hope you're okay. And I want to thank everyone who joined us last week, live, on the panel, in the chat, those who contributed heavily from the chat. I want to thank you guys. And I want to thank you guys who listened to the playback. As always, just want to remind you guys as well, Shoot the Breeze has a second channel called Shoot the Breeze Clips. And on that channel, I clip up all of the Shoot the Breeze topics. I might be a little bit behind in some episodes, but I clip them up and I put them up there on the Shoot the Breeze Clips channel. So if you wait a day or two, hopefully that's about it. If you wait a few days, what I want to start doing is publishing the clips again every Friday before a new Saturday show. So look out for that. You're going to see some little refinements going on now too, because I changed up my strategy about how I'm doing things with the podcast, etc. So just look for the little refinements and things of that nature. But on tonight's show, what do we have in store? Please drop a 1 if you can hear me, by the way. Drop a 1 if you can hear me. Just want to make sure you guys can hear me. I see the Pro Black Perspective is in the chat saying live from Nairobi, Kenya, 3 a.m. and I have insomnia, but also bad internet. He also gives me a 1, so he lets me know he can hear me. So does Anthony McPhail, who says peace to me, peace to the panel and the chat. And he drops the number 1. So thank you guys for letting me know. Trigger Happy's out there as well. Thank you guys for letting me know that you're here and that you can hear me. With that said, what do we have in store for tonight's show? On tonight's show, we're going to discuss how you can trust DNA until you can't, it seems. We're going to talk about the new era of Pan-Africanism. This is a song, big tune, it says. We're talking about white scholars and even some Pan-Africanists alike misinterprets the role of Mansa Musa as a leader of the Mali Empire. We're going to discuss that as well tonight. We're going to look at a video and try to answer the question, do we devalue marriage because of our historical, linguistic, and cultural rupture, as argued by Zanu? We're going to look at a scenario. The prompt says, I agree and disagree with this. This is in reference to the African American culture. So we're going to talk these things tonight. What you guys can do for me in the meantime is hit the like button, share the show to your social media, tag me in it so I can see, yeah, I shared the show. And what we're going to do is start the show officially. And on the other side of the intro, I'll welcome in any and all panelists, as well as drop Shoot the Breeze topic number 1. So do stay tuned.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio. Welcome to the Bitter Medicine Podcast, where it's all about Black empowerment. Our show focuses on Black news and entertainment, arts, science, economics, history, people, and strategies that uplift, empower, and motivate Africans within the diaspora. And now your host, whose favorite color is black, Goku.
Welcome back to the Bitter Medicine Podcast. I am your host, Koku. Just want to remind you guys before we get the show rolling that this show is part of a podcast network called KWAZ Radio. There are other shows on the network you are invited to tune into.
This is D Webb with the Harsh Reality Podcast, asking you to tune in where we tackle the news of the day that affects our community, only on KWAZ Radio.
Peace, family. This is Oni, inviting you to listen to the Pro-Black Perspective, where black problems are addressed with black solutions.
Greetings, fam. Tune in to The Learning Curve with me, the Revolutionary Matron on KWAZ Radio.
You are listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast on KWAZ Radio.
Yes, indeed. Again, make sure you guys hit the like button. I didn't put up a goal this week, but the goal is in place. To make the goal one of these Saturday evenings. Again, your contributions will be used positively towards what we're building around here. This won't be a Umar Johnson scenario. Shout out to Umar in the thumbnail with the police around him. You know, Umar might be in some problems coming up here, but shout out to him. All the same. Yeah, make sure you guys hit the like button, share the show when you can, invite a person or two. I'm really trying to get the numbers for the lives to be higher, and I'm putting in that work to fine-tune how things are done. So you're going to see little changes here and there, like I alluded to before the intro. If you would like to join the panel, the link is pinned to the top of the chat. So whether you're on the KWAZ radio side or here on the Bitter Medicine podcast side, click the link pinned to the top of the chat, join the panel so that your thoughts can be heard as well. Without further ado, right now it's just me, but that's all good. Without further ado, let me shoot the breeze topic number one tonight. Shoot the breeze topic number one says, you can trust DNA until you can't. This comes with a link that's going to take us to X. I believe it was a tweet from Shango's Wrath. Yes, indeed. So, Shango's Wrath, the quote says, my ancestry DNA test is a lie. How am I African? We're going to watch the video and then we will discuss it.
Like when they ancestry DNA is a lie, and I just came to that conclusion, right? So yeah, my great grandmother was a Native American, right? She was Indian, and then y'all know I found my biological father through ancestry, so I know that part was right. But the blood like stuff, like when they tried to say like I'm like 1% Irish and I got a lot of African in me and stuff like that, I know that's not true. And I know that's not true because me and my biological father, this man can trace his ancestry back to Blackfoot Indians. So with that being said, how am I African? Like, ain't nothing wrong with it. Let me start there. There's nothing wrong with it. But 39% Nigerian, Benin and Togo, Mali, Ivory Coast, Ghana, Cameroon, Senegal, Western Bantu peoples, Ireland, Central West Africa, England, in Northwestern Europe, Yorubaland, Southern Bantu peoples. Didn't I already say that? Nigeria woodlands and 1% indigenous Americas. That 1% is not true. Now, it's nothing wrong with being all of that, but I just know personally because my family is young. I have a young family. I am 32 years old. My mother just turned 54. My grandmother, she's not even 70, I don't think. And then my great grandmother just passed last year or 2 years ago, one of the two. So, and I had the opportunity to meet my great great grandmother when I was a kid before she passed, and she was most definitely Native American. Now, the why, I think they're doing this because, and y'all know, I be just maybe I think too deep into things, but my why is I feel like it could be used as a way to deport people. I feel like that, or I don't know. I don't know. I feel like it could be used as a way to deport people in the future, because with all of this stuff that's going on right now, it's a little crazy.
A little crazy indeed. Uh, in the chat, Brother Anthony says the Aboriginals always claim DNA is false. Provide Triggers is out there. She says, greeting, well as daily affirmations. Like Paulina's out there saying, good evening. Good evening to you ladies. I appreciate you being here. KW Don says, I'm Arawak Indian. RBG is out there, real black gentleman. He says, bro, quote, your great great grandmother is just one of 32 great great grandparents. And what RBG said there is so real. A lot of us don't understand the genetic analysis thing. When we talk about, when someone talks about their great great grandmother, people act like you only have one of those things. No, you have several of those things. There's a very, very important point to understand. Real Black Gentleman says, ain't no black man, one tribe with all the mixture and migration of peoples. If you are one Indian tribe, you're probably two or three. Trigger 262 says, I've heard some argue on those anti-divester accounts that many grandmothers had consensual sexual encounters with white men and say they are Native American as a lie. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, there's a video you could go and see her saying that. She said what happened a lot of times, Trigger saying consensual, but what she was saying was a lot of times it was non-consensual, and the shame of it, because there's an embarrassment attached to being forced upon oftentimes. The shame of it had a lot of people, women in particular, saying, instead of saying my great grandmother was forced upon, they just said she was Native American, she was Indian, So that's a terrible, terrible fact, and it's one of many terrible facts. I wish more black folks would, think on, ponder on, and really never forget about. There's some terrible facts in that ma'afa that we went through to present day. There's some terrible facts that we tend to try to push past and fit other things in it instead. With that said, let me welcome in my first panelist tonight. That'll be Black Steel. Black Steel, how are you feeling this week?
I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
I'm doing good, man. I'm hanging in. You feeling better?
No, I'm feeling much better, much better.
All right. I'm glad to hear that. Let me welcome in my second finalist tonight. That'll be Anthony. And Brother Anthony, how are you doing this week?
I'm doing fine, man. Can you hear me, bro? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm doing. And how you doing, Coco? How you doing, Black Steel?
I'm doing well.
Good. All right. With that said, man, did both of you guys get to see the video that I played?
I did, yes. It was funny to me, but I did see it, yes.
Okay, so it's interesting. You can trust DNA until you can't. So she was able to find her father through ancestry DNA. Then all of a sudden, her African results can't be true. Black, so what say you to all that?
Indoctrination makes you immune to facts, right? And that's just the reality of it. A lot of people want to deny their African ancestry for whatever reason, right? This person here, she doesn't want to be black. She doesn't want to be African. She doesn't feel connected to Africa. She's a pretendian, right? But she is so invested in this reality that she refuses to accept the fact that, hey, she could be wrong. The reality is that she just can't accept the fact that she's not an Indian, right? Because she says her grandmother told her she was Native American, all this other stuff. She's just upset because the reality is that she has not come to terms with reality that she is an African. And that the pretending ideology is just completely caught up in just make believe. These people do not want to be African. They want to be anything but African. And that's all it is. So even when presented with facts, that no, you're not a Native American, right? You're not any Chippewa or Blackfoot or Cherokee. You may have some of that DNA, but most of your DNA comes from Africa, right? So it's like when people are really religious, right? But they pick and choose the Bible verses that they like, and they ignore the ones they don't like. And that's all the situation is. It's somebody who has picked and choose. Oh, I received information that my DNA is this and that. And reality is, this person is black as the ace of spades. All right, they're upset about it, but it's a reality. It's just a reality of the fact that she is not content with being African, and they have a negative relationship with Africa, and because of that, they want to escape it in any way they want. They know how. And there's a lot of and this black stuff is not easy, right? It's not easy. There's a lot of stuff that comes with being black, and some people don't want to deal with that. Some people don't want to escape that whenever possible. So we have made up in especially United States, we had this mythology of the noble savage, right? We see Native Americans as the noble savages. They hunted and they fished and they were one with nature and so on and so forth. And a lot of people would rather cling to that than the idea that they were enslaved and brought from Africa. So this is the reality. So any DNA, she's gonna, oh, this is wrong. They're trying to deport us, as if they needed a DNA test to deport you, right? They don't need that. If they want to deport you, they're going to deport you. You might end up in Uganda or Swaziland at this point. So they don't need DNA to report you. But the idea is that it's just these people have a relationship with reality that we don't have the same relationship with, right? They want to be something they're not. They want to be. It's all about escapism, right? And for many people who are oppressed, black people in particular, but the desire is to escape the oppression. And they feel the oppression is tied to their blackness, and many of them have, you know, don't have a real understanding about Native American people. And the thing is, Native Americans, truth be told, there are some Native American tribes that are doing okay. But if you look at the stats, by and large, many Native Americans are down horrendous at this point. We're talking about high rates of infant mortality, alcoholism, suicide, diabetes, infant mortality, poverty. It runs the gamut of bad shit. But again, they don't want to be black. So that's why you have all these made up identities. You have the Hebrew Israelites, or we're the real Native Americans, or whatever identity they want to escape into. Right? I don't think that we have to really pay too much attention to their claims, but I think we have to pay attention to the mental delusion that they're undertaking, because it is a lot of mental delusion you have to be involved in to convince yourself that you are alien, or Hebrew or ancient Hebrew from the Bible, that Egypt was really in America, and the Nile River, Mississippi, and all this other stuff, right? That's a really large leap in logic. And I think that the more you lean into believing in absurdities, right, that increases your self-hatred. And these individuals who have full of self-hatred for being black, these are very dangerous people. I remember there was a school shooting a couple months ago, and it stood out because it was a black boy, and his mother was a Hebrew Israelite. And one thing the Hebrews teach is about, the Africans enslaved the Hebrews and sent them overseas. We're not black, we're Hebrews, right? So, but at its core is something that is anti-black. And I think that is the whole thing with these pretendians. At its core is anti-blackness. They don't want to be black. They want to escape from blackness. Don't matter. DNA said she was black. Jesus Christ himself was to come down and say, "You a nigga." She would have a problem with it. She would never be able to accept it. So I think overall it's a sad case, because we're dealing with a level of delusion and self-hate that is very dangerous if left unchecked. So I'll leave it there. Thanks, Coco.
Well done there, Black Steel. I really appreciated that breakdown. In the chat, Trigapi was just reminding me, was an anti-divester account. So of course they spoke about, on consensual terms as opposed to non-consensual terms that I mentioned. Cheryl is out there. She said greetings. Athrazer is out there. Make sure you'll check out Athrazer's channel and his music. He says we would need healing places to deal with all that trauma. Unsurprising that we resort to lies. Good to be amongst you all. Real Black Gentleman in the chat says, hell, I got Cherokee and Navajo in me. Have my peoples tell it. With that said, Real Black, not gentleman, but Real Black Indian has joined us on the panel tonight. Real Black Indian, how are you this?
Man, what's good, Coco? How you doing?
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. I'm glad.
I'm just saying. I mean, again, like when you have the stories of peoples. I mean, and again, a lot of this has to do with a critical time period. Like when them crackers brought our folks over here. Again, there was a critical time period because the Indians themselves were being depopulated. So any kind of opportunity to kind of flee into Indian country, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? Indian country in 1780 was like Alabama. You know what I'm saying? Then it was like, Missouri. Then it's like, you know what I'm saying? The Dakotas, then Montana. You know what I'm saying? Then so black people ain't really heavy out west of the Mississippi. So it's like, I'm not saying that it's possible that, black peoples did mix with the Indian peoples here, right? Just like they mix, with the white people. What I'm saying, you can't major in the minor. The DNA is what it is. It's like she can't, there's stories and there's anecdotes. You can't go back in time. And not to say that, again, you gotta twist the paradox here. Just because the technology is newer doesn't mean it's necessarily more legit, but it's just means of confirming information. They just didn't have the tools, but they didn't need the tools back then to confirm a lot of stuff. Although had they had DNA 50 years before its time, hey, as far as, questions being answered, who's to say it want to be, you can't have people, you can't get caught up. What happens is, again, with black people being, we tend to be matriarchal. We tend to be born into our mother's homes. So, when she's talking about her great grandmother, it's not far fetched. You know what I'm saying? How men get kicked out of the house. You know what I'm saying? Again, when you have, everyone has two parents. Every soul on earth has four parents, unless you're in some kind of like freak instant situation, which I'm not even going to regard. Everyone has 8 great grandparents. Everyone, every soul, because every parent has two parents. That's just hard biological math. So when people talk about my great great grandmother, it's cool to go back 5 generations. It is a flex to be able to relate to that, and there's nothing wrong with that. Indeed, it's all glory to be able to have that intergenerational connection. It's all pertinent and vital to one's own worth and identity. But again, that's one of your 32 great great grandparents. Every soul on earth has 32 great great grandparents. That is the truth. No one has one great grandparent, one great grandmother, and one great grandfather. That is the fallacy that is implied when people say it. They say it as if it's you know what I'm saying, empirical, but it's I mean, the depth of what you're not talking about is so deep. This goes back to, you know what I'm saying, loss of hereditary you know what I'm saying, hereditary science, you know, understanding our family trees, whose cousins, how far back. I mean, back in the motherland, I mean, even prior to this day, people know about, you know, just the knowing of families. You don't necessarily have just, you know, illegitimate children. That's just not a cool thing. I don't think that, you know what I'm saying, everyone wants to be claimed their kids. I mean, you don't want to be loose. I mean, it can happen, but it's not smart on a human, on an African level. You don't want to lose, you know, you don't want to have wild oats out there. It just doesn't make too much sense. You might as well just structure your family and put all your resources into your children that are legitimate. You know what I'm saying? As far as like, yeah, the Indian thing, you know, a lot of it is I think it's an op. Just try to get Black people away from Africa, just to discredit Africa, just to like not look at it. And again, major and minor, just to focus on what is relatively minor, because again, she has a flurry of great grandparents that she has no thinking of, that most of us don't. Hell, I don't think all of us know all 32 of our great grandparents. I'm just gonna say that out loud. How many people know all 32 of their great grandparents? I'll wait. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you can't necessarily blame, but it's important to recognize that, like, you know, because of like, you know, just, you know, destruction of families, you know what I'm saying, it can be near impossible to try to find that out without some tools that, you know, DNA won't put a name to it, and it can't discriminate between how many generations, because it's just the nature of what people are, it's a comparison science. Okay, you have this stuff, there's other people, because I mean, not everyone has DNA. Of course, these white folks wish they could test everyone's DNA, but you know, it's samples out there, right? It's samples out there, and samples are compared to samples. You know what I'm saying? So it's not a full picture, but it's better information than none. You know, her being distraught is just a simple lack of understanding of how rich her family is. I'm gonna pass the mic.
RBG always comes through with some interesting information, something to think about. But he's absolutely correct about the implication of, like, you just have one great grandmother or one great great grandmother. Like, come on, man. Only in the chat, the pro-Black perspective says the father abandons his kid, and yet she takes his word for his biohistory. That's another great point too. You have to find this dude through ancestry, because he abandoned you. Then you ask him about the family history, and he's the guy who you're gonna listen to telling you about some Blackfoot Indian. Only says, yeah, grandparents lied to hide why their children were mixed. Afterwards says this black stuff is not easy. John knows. Trigger says the anthropology and the evidence just doesn't add up to African Americans being native to the Americas. There could be Black presence in the Americas, but the evidence is not established. Cheryl says these Native Americans don't own a mirror. Trigger says no linguistic, archaeological, or genetic evidence from the Abo side, just anecdote and speculation. This comment here, like, Athrazer says, we don't have to pay attention to their claims. What we have to do is build the alternatives. If we had a network of Pan-African universities, being African would be more attractive. We, must build. Trigger says, we would even need Pan-African schooling and universities for the process of revolution, because too many of our people, even revolutionaries, have a Western orientation and training. Cheryl says, for the 100th time, you cannot put a percentage to DNA. That could be debated a little bit, but Sister Ross says, greetings to me and all the yard. With that said, let's hear from our brother Anthony. Anthony, what say you?
Okay, that was a lot, man. That was a lot. That was a lot. Can you hear me, Coco?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I guess I'm kind of got a slow connection, but yeah. I started. First of all, everybody made great presentations, man. You know, I respected everybody's view on the thing, man. Real black gentleman and black steel. Well, I'll say the first thing I'm gonna start off with is this right here. I'm a quote what Malcolm said. Who taught you to hate your hair, to hate your African, your black hair? Who taught you to hate your nose? Who taught you to hate your lips? And who taught you to hate your skin? You know what I'm saying? Who taught you to hate Africa? You know, and what Malcolm also said about how can you hate the roots of a tree without hating the whole tree? You know, he basically talked about the self-hate, the hatred of ourselves, the hatred that we have in ourselves. I ain't no African. I don't want to be from Africa. We could look. We could go back to the 19th century when it was a period of time in the middle of the 19th century where you had Abraham Lincoln. After the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln, Abraham 08 had he tried to inaugurate this program to repatriate black people back to Africa. What he wanted to send them to Central America, what is now the Belize, to parts of the Caribbean, and it was into Brazil and to Liberia. And of course, they also had a little bit before Abraham, they had the American Colonization Society. Now, this was when all of that I ain't no African shit came up. This is when it started, because a lot of people were saying, a lot of black people, and we were talking about the free black people, the black people who went enslaved, like the 90%, in the slaveholding parts of the United States, mostly in the United States South. Okay, so these people was in fear. They said, we've been here in America all this time. We put in blood, sweat, and tears, and we don't know nothing about Africa. Our grandparents came from Africa, but we don't want to go back. We're American. You know what I'm saying? And we'll look at it like the best thing you could have did was went back. But I can understand their fear, the fear of going somewhere that I didn't know nothing about. So I mean, I can understand why they felt the way they felt. But I'm saying this was the beginning of that I ain't no African thing. Now, of course, we know, all of us know, that very few black people, some black people, but very few black people have a considerable amount of Native American ancestry, the indigenous people ancestry. So I think it's about, the average black person has about like according to statistics that I read, have about 2%. Now, some have a little bit more. And Coco, look at, don't laugh at me real quick, but I'm gonna tell you something real quick. Okay, now I remember, I'm old enough to remember both of my great grandmothers. My one great grandmother, Miss Froney Kemps, you know what I'm saying? She's a dark skinned woman, and I got pictures of both of them. And after the program, I'm gonna send both of those pictures to you, Coco. Okay, I have pictures of both. And my other great grandma, my maternal great grandmother, my grandmama's mama. She's a light skinned woman, and she actually has, that Native American look. That was always said that they had the Native American heritage. But I had to go and do the research. Now, and I know that where my great grandmother, my maternal great mother was from, it was an Indian reservation. It was a Native American reservation next to it, where they had settled some of the people. And so, it was that aspect of the race mixing. of the mixed race thing. But it wasn't no like she was an American Indian. No, she was mixed with African and mixed with some Native American. You know what I'm saying? My great grandmother's grandmother was part Native American and part African. She was a mixed race woman. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't she was a Native American from original. You know what I'm saying? No, what you hear like these Aboriginals talking about now, like Black Steel say, these pretendians. You know, like we are indigenous to this land. No, hell no. Ain't no black people in America or in the diaspora indigenous to the Americas. None of us are indigenous. We all come from Africa. You know what I'm saying? That's just a fact that we could try to run from it all we want to. And this thing ain't just among Africans here in this country. This man in the Caribbean and other parts, they got other people claiming this Native American stuff. What I'm saying is that I think that, okay, like, yeah, that's another thing. Touching on what Black Steel said. It was somebody else in the chat said, I don't know, was it Trigger Happy? When you hear all of these Negroes running around there talking about being indigenous and about being, you know, Native American or whatever you want to call them, they be the most African-looking people that you ever seen. You know what I'm saying? Like her, yeah, she got the little orange stuff in her hair, but look at that hair, that nap-ass hair that sister got. You know what I'm saying? Black as she is. You know what I'm saying? It always be them saying this here. I always ask the Web originals, the pretendians, I say, what happened to y'all hair? You know what I'm saying? How your hair went from straight black Asiatic hair to this nap-ass African hair. And they can't never tell me why. And then I ask them, I say, well, how come? I say, well, why y'all don't worship none of the Native American indigenous belief systems? You know what I'm saying? Why y'all don't go back and claim your Native American names? You know what I'm saying? Why y'all don't wear the Native American clothes? Why don't see y'all at powwows and ceremonies and stuff that they do? I live here in Louisiana, right down the road in Kickapoo, Louisiana. They got a group of Native American people down there. It's a group of them down there now. You know what I'm saying? The Coshada people, the Coshada Indians. And they have all kind of events all the time. I'd have been through there and I don't never see a Negro there. You know what I'm saying? We got plenty of them down there. We got a lot of indigenous. You know, the population not large, but there are a lot of them. There are a lot of different groups. Probably about 20 or 30 groups. Like here in North Louisiana and some in southern, mostly in southern Louisiana. But we have small bands and groups. But I'm just saying, I don't never see these Negroes, these Africans embracing the culture. All they do is say we ain't no Africans. We Native Americans, we Aboriginals. But they don't embrace none of the culture. But everything, the food you eat, the music you like, everything about you leans toward the African culture. You know what I'm saying? Or the African American, African derived culture. It ain't got nothing to do with the indigenous people. You know what I'm saying? And don't ask them a history lesson. You know, hey, I asked a history lesson one time, and I damn near had to go in there and get my old ragged ass pistol because they wanted to jump on me. You know what I'm saying? Because they didn't know nothing about it, and that's the bottom line. What I'm saying, our people are so ahistorical. We don't read nothing. We just lay there and listen at some fools like a Tariq Nasheed or Dane Calloway or some of these Negroes. This one I can't think of his name, who go put some feathers in his head and start blowing on a little fight. Talking about he chief some shit. You know what I'm saying? I like when I ask you a question, run down the history to me. And what was that Black Steel said? Why so many of them got to be Cherokee? The Cherokee, even right now, the Cherokee is a band, a group of Native American people who are probably about 500,000 people. You know what I'm saying? Right now. And half of them look like some white folks, some mixed race people. I don't even know what a full-blooded Indian look like. You know what I'm saying? But I'm like, why y'all the only tribe y'all know is the Cherokees. Every now and then they might say a Choctaw. Every now and then they might say something, they'll say a Blackfoot. And they say a Blackfoot just because the name Blackfoot. Now, you don't know nothing about Blackfoot. Blackfoot was even from this part of the country. You know what I'm saying? The majority of black people, African people in this country at that time was in one particular area. No, in the south, in the southern part of the country. Some in the East Coast and up north, whatever, a few of them. But I'm saying the majority of us was here. and all of them groups that they be claiming ain't got nothing to do with over here. You know, I mean, these Negroes probably say they some kin of Geronimo. Geronimo was a Mexican Indian. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, they is thorough. They don't know nothing. They don't read shit. And when you test them on it, you know, they want to get the call you all kind of days or, you know, saying all kind of shit. But I say, bro, I'm just asking you about your history. You say you Native American, you black indigenous. I'm just asking you to enlighten me and teach me your history. But they can't never teach you a goddamn thing because they know it's a bunch of bullshit. But yeah, man, I'll leave it at that, man. It's just some fake shit, man. Some self-hate. And like I said, like somebody said, we don't need to kind of, we do, well, you know, yeah, we do need to pay attention to it, but we do need to do more to educate our people away from this foolishness. And I'll leave it right there, man.
Appreciate that, Anthony. I'll say, I think one of the reasons why they say Cherokee often is because we grew up hearing about Cherokees, like on TV and stuff. I remember like in the 80s and stuff, whenever they depicted some Native Americans, it was always Cherokee. So I think that's why they always say Cherokee. Shout out to War Drum, who says, greetings, everybody. Trigapi says, thinking about Arthur's point, I've always said many of our black scholars have been the most intelligent about our ancient history, and still white propagandists believed over black intelligence. Goes on to say, educational systems to propagate the work of black scholars. Otherwise, people will believe alternative information no matter what. Sister Raw says, we were here in America thousands of years before Columbus was born. Learn your story and not his story.
No.
With all of that,
I would like her to come upstairs and come up here and tell us that story, because we're oblivious to that.
Yeah, I'll let you guys discuss that in the future. But while we have you here, Kofi, how are you this week?
I'm doing good. I'm all right. I got health, love, and family, and I'm black, so I'm good.
Yes, sir. Kofi, what are your thoughts on this?
It's wow. I mean, everyone said a lot. I really don't want to repeat what everyone has said, but I'm just going to highlight what was said and build upon what Black Steel was saying. They're running away from their blackness. You know, saying being black in America and Native American is one of the hardest things you could be in this society. So they run away from their blackness and they want to be something that is, I don't know how they feel is more beneficial. They have no tribe, what Anthony says. They don't have any customs. They don't know the languages. They don't have the style of dress. They don't have anything, right? But they want to be these people who have high concentrations of poverty, high concentrations of alcohol abuse, you know, saying, or what they call the white man's firewater. You know, yes, there are a few that get their little reparations right here, but if I'm pretty sure, I'm gonna go out on a limb, and I'm pretty sure if you look at the most well-to-do people in America, I don't think Native Americans is going to be in the top 3. I just think they're not. But it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with running away from blackness. And I think it was a Real Black Gentleman. He says something that was I like how he phrased it. Because when I say these things to these people, they can't understand it. Well, my daddy said, or my daddy said that his mother is a Native American. Yes, your whole lineage is like he said, 32 grandparents, more or less. You don't know all 32. Just because one, let's say, is a full-blooded Native American, and I'm pretty sure that's a dynamic of some, I'll emphasize, of some on black people in America, whether they be in North, Central, Caribbean, or South, that doesn't mean, oh, now I'm Native American. And it goes to them being just literally being of self-hatred and not being very educated. And y'all said, like Anthony said, something, why is it always the dark-skinned people always feeling like saying, you know, clinging to these things? You know what I'm saying? Because there's a form of self-hate by being raised in a Eurocentric society within all types of racism and all types of categories, whether it be music, television, speech, language. It's just racism all the time. But one thing I do want to add, and it's why I'm going to leave here kicking the hornet's nest here, right? Because we had this conversation before. I just find everyone is in total agreement with this prompt because he was saying like, oh, yeah, I'm 1% Irish, and and she said she was like 1% or 2% Irish, but then she's only 1% Native American. How that can be? The DNA test is actually telling her it's kind of co-signing her stories. Let's say her father's telling the truth because her makeup is similar to mine. Me, I'm 98% African, West African. I only have 1% Irish and 1% Native American. That's it. That doesn't mean and in my family, on my mother's side, I knew my great grandmother. So I had my mother knew of her great grandmother, and she said I think she was half Indian, but they thought since I'm Guyanese, they thought she was East Indian from India. But when I did my DNA test, it said no, she was Native American. So I told my mother, like, no, she was Native American. You know what I'm saying? If she was East Indian, I have no genetic markers in India. So even if you go to believe what she's saying, that doesn't make her Native American. It makes no sense. And the part where I'm kicking on hornet's nest here, you guys all believe that, but when a DNA test and I say to people from Papua New Guinea or it's not African, everyone doesn't understand. Just because she looked African, we can see that she looks African, right? We know that she is African, but she's not African. Somewhere down the line, probably, she was Native American. But when it comes to DNA, it has to do, we have to put away our biases and our cognitive dissonance or things that we believe to be true that we see in our face that is not necessarily true. So if she is not, so she's claiming to be not African, even though the DNA test says that she is. It's just as ridiculous if someone from Papua New Guinea or someone from the from somewhere from Indonesia or somewhere from Asia, Southeast Asians, or even Indians from India, East Indians. I know some that's darker than all of us. If they say no, they're not African, they're far removed. Again, so what they believe what Black Gentleman says, we have a whole long line that goes far further back than 32 grandparents. Those type of people, we're talking probably like 4, 5, 300 grandparents before they became to look like us. And I'll end with this. So when people will say, I'm going a little off topic here. So when people say, well, white people are, when I say, well, the first people in, because they have this thing with this stupid thing where, yeah, the first Black people were Irish and all this other nonsense or whatever. And it's not really nonsense in that word to say. But the first Black people in Europe were called the Grimaldi people, right? They were called the Grimaldi people, and they went through a genetic change, but they were Black in the beginning. Anyone could Google Venus of Willendorf. Venus of Willendorf is a figurine that they had. It was a faceless figurine we had, and she looks like a Black woman, full breasts, hips, butt, everything. And those are from the Grimaldi people. So we know genetically that white people is just a mutation of Black people, and we all accept that. So I'm just saying let's accept science for what it is when it agrees with us and when it doesn't agree with us. And I'll end it there.
So thank you, Kofi. Couple things. One, I want to bring. So we talked about the Cherokee people, right? And I've been to the Cherokee. The Eastern Band of Cherokee is in North Carolina. So I've been there. Been to the Cherokee Museum. All that. It was very nice. Nice place to visit when you want to live there. But one thing you got to remember: the Cherokee were slave owners, right? They were slave owners. They didn't own a lot of slaves, but they did own slaves, and they fought for the Confederacy. There was a regiment that was formed in Indian country. They called themselves the Cherokee Lincoln Killers. Right? So their whole thing was to fight to maintain possession of Black people. So it's a funny thing. And again, as Anthony was saying, this goes to people not knowing their history, right? Not just knowing their history, not knowing any history, right? So when you don't know history, you can claim to be a part of a tribe that was slave owners that fought to maintain slavery and to this day refuses to help to pay the descendants of those enslaved people that they own. There was a big there was a big controversy that the Cherokee Nation was removing the descendants of their slaves, who were known the Cherokee freedmen, who had been a part of the tribe since the ending of slavery in America. Now they're removing them from the tribal roll so that way they can't get whatever payments from the benefit. They can't participate in tribal councils, everything else like that, right? So when people claim Native Americans, especially the so-called five civilized tribes, they don't understand the history between these people who actually were slave owners and who were forced to give away, had to be forced to emancipate their slaves. So they didn't. So remember this: that the 13th Amendment in the United States was passed in 1865. The slaves in Indian Territory were not liberated until 1866. They had to be made to free their slaves. They didn't do it willingly, and they had to be made to make them members of their tribe. So, to Anthony's point, this goes again about people not understanding their history. Just like the comment about Pangea. Okay, Pangea was millions of years ago. We're talking about back in the Mesozoic era. Okay,
Oh, Black
so
Steel, I'm not cutting you off. I have spoken to these people and I said, how far do you go back?
how
They
far are we
said
going back?
Pangea. They said Pangea. That was 300 million years
There weren't
old.
even Kofi,
People weren't around.
there weren't any mammals back then. Okay,
It's
there were
old. You're
no
older than the
mammals.
Jurassic era. That's around like that's older than
Yeah,
60 million years ago when
there were
dinosaurs
no
were around.
there were no mammals at the time, let alone human beings. There were no mammals around. So, but people want to pick and choose and come up with different things, and it's so funny to me because if anybody remembers that old skit from In Living Color, right? And the dude kept using these big words and the big science, and he thought it made him smart. But when you know what you're talking about, like, what are you talking about?
Not the sight. I'm sorry, brother. Vagina.
What are we talking about, Pangea? There weren't even mammals around. You barely had trees. They didn't have flowers back then. So, I mean, we can understand continental drift, but at the same time, we have people who deny evolution. So, continental drift, we can understand that. But evolution, oh, that's some made up stuff. DNA is made up, but the DNA I want. There is a serious lack of education among our people. And I believe it is very deliberate. It is not something that just happened to come about just by chance. Black people, there was a point in our history, especially at the ending of chattel slavery, Black people hungered and thirsted for knowledge because it was denied to us for so long, right? And I believe that because of our desire for knowledge, right, to the point to where our literacy rates had increased to the point where we were reading better than the white people around us. But then there has been deliberate attempts to make us ignorant, and I think this is a part of it.
I think
Bobby
it's
he said something on more. He said the only battle that remains to us is the battle for the Black mind, and we are losing. And that always stuck with me when he said that.
I mean, it's to me, it's like, I mean, it's the scientific ignorance. I know everyone, is into certain things more or less. Not everybody is like me. I'm a geek. I will sit and I just did that this Saturday afternoon. I was looking things on science, on earth science, biology, chemistry. I just find that stuff interesting. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody is on par like that. But if you're gonna say something crazy like, uranium is not radioactive and you don't cause cancer, okay, I would like to hear that argument. But then people just get mad and they say you're stupid, it's the white man science and all types of stupid shit. You know what I'm saying? Show me how what your claim is and why it is. You know what I'm saying? It's a methodology. Don't racialize it. Don't culturalize it. This is an exchange of ideas. And if you could prove what you're saying to be right, then I'm gonna have to go back to the drawing board. But if you're not giving me of how you came to your conclusion, then you're just being totally dishonest. Like Anthony said, you're just full of shit. They don't have any customs or anything like that. It's not even a Black American thing. It's a Caribbean thing. I know people from I have a close friend of mine. He's from Grenada. He knows I'm from Ghana, and he's still on that. Well, but Native Americans is Black. I'm like, brother, you can't do that. Especially you can't do that to me being Guyanese. You know what I'm saying? Everyone in Guyana and Trinidad know who's a Buckman, who's Black, who's Indian. There's no confusion. Everybody knows who they are. Only when you come out of places like Guyana and Trinidad and other places where Black people are just confused. Like I never heard anyone in my family that's Guyanese or Trinidadian trying to claim something that they're not. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know. It's to me, it's just crazy. But coming here, being in this country, like I said before, if a Black person say, "Hey, there's Indian in my family," I say, "Okay, it's no problem. I got Indian in my family too. Doesn't mean I'm Indian." But as I got older, I was like, "Oh no, they think that." And when I ask some basic questions, it's the same thing. They can't even answer. Oh, so what tribe? Because I could tell you I have an aunt. And where her people are from, she could go right in the bush right there. Oh, my people are right here, right there, and they claim her. You know what I'm saying? But just because she's not black like that, people want to think like, oh, she's not really Native American. Like, what are you talking about? Anyway, I'll just end it there. I always find this fascinating and sad at the same time. But that's it.
Hey, Koku, can I say something before you go on?
Yeah, go ahead. I have another comment.
Hey. Okay. It ain't gonna take that long, man. Hey, Kofi. And the funny thing about it, Kofi, this is a funny point, man. You gonna laugh. The reason why a lot of these dang Callaways and stuff, spread this bullshit is because of a brother from Guyana who wrote that book that came up on Columbus.
I gotta take that. You're right. It's Van Sertima. You're right. I'm fighting people. Look, how you Guyanese, and one of them, besides George G.M. James, one of the most great minds that came out of Guyana. You're gonna like no, and I think I'm gonna admit I didn't read all of the came before Columbus. I didn't read the book. I don't have the book, but listening to Van Sertima, listening to his lectures on the book. Correct me if I'm wrong. For those of you who have read it from cover to cover, all Van Sertima was trying to do is prove, because the white people were saying that Black people are backwards, Black people are this, Black people can't do that. They they couldn't build ships. They don't know anything about maritime engineering. Van Sertima they came before Columbus to prove that, hey, look, it is a possibility that a West African could make a ship, which he did, which they've done, and follow the current into the Gulf of Mexico, and who intermingle and mix with Mesoamericans. So yeah, it's a possibility they were the Olmecs, and it was probably a small group of West Africans that went there, because we all know that the Olmecs died out. We don't know the Olmec language. We don't have a body to excavate at all.
So it wasn't his fault. It wasn't his fault. It was just the fools who got a hold to it and took it somewhere else.
Exactly. I said, show me where Van Sertima said that the Olmecs were West African. Please show me. And they can't show me.
With that said, let's welcome Brother Bakari this week. Brother Bakari, how are you?
Peace, my brother. What's going on? Peace to the panel, the chat. There was a lot of stuff said. Man, thank you for letting me get up here and speak. It was a lot of stuff said. I'm gonna just say, that Native American, that Indian thing. Yes, that's embarrassed. In Oklahoma, the Black, and this is what it reads: the people from descendants of enslaved Africans can now get land or whatever on the Cherokee thing, on the Cherokee reservation, whatever, on any of their reservations. So it was the guy who was on who family was enslaved by Africans, and he was talking about it on Roland Martin, and he was reading it. He was so excited, and he was like, yeah. And see, the thing literally reads, he was reading it, it literally says of enslaved Africans. He said, yeah, the enslaved Africans and the black indigenous. It does not say black indigenous. But that is something he put in there after reading it. After reading the court document, that is something that he added. Black people have become white people. We want to take people's culture. We complain about white people taking our culture, but we want to take people's culture. They always say, like everybody, Cherokee, that's like the biggest tribe, but they're always descendants of the slave owner. They are always descendants
Brother
of the
Makari
people.
chopping
Huh?
to me, it sounded like you were chopping up, but maybe I'm wrong.
Can y'all hear me?
Continue. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I can hear you just fine, Bakari.
It's always them claiming to be descendants of the slave owner. I remember I was telling Koku this story. I remember my mama for a long time didn't want to be African. For a very long time. My daddy didn't like that ish. But here's the thing, my grandmama, her mama was from Africa Town. My great grandmama was born into slavery. My great great grandmother was born on the continent of Africa. My mama didn't want to be African until she went to Africa. When she went to Africa, then she embraced being Africa. It done something to her spiritually. But these folks know, like my mama knew, they just didn't want to be, and they don't want to be. But these people today, they are doing what white people did. They can't complain about white people saying they Native American. They $5 Indians. Okay, well, you ain't how much you should have paid to be one since you want to be one so damn bad. They can't come see the white people taking the Egyptians history. Shit, y'all trying to take these people's history, right? I ain't gonna say 2 or 3 Africans never came here. I don't know, but not indigenous to this land, not aboriginal to this land. Now, one of the things when I heard Kofi talking, right? Something I don't believe. I don't care what science say. Even when I read the Out of Africa theory, I don't think people in Europe was originally black. I just think that's a made up bullshit by some black folks who trying to figure out a way to stay connected to white folks. Because even when you read the Out of Africa theory, it talks about how when they left Africa, they met other human species. See, we just negate the other human species and just say, see, the Homo sapien. Now you can't negate what else was out there. And there is no proof that those other, this is just my opinion, there's no proof that those other human species were black. There's no that to me. Ain't nobody show me that. Like I said, when you read the Out of Africa theory, it talk about meeting other human species. That's why in certain parts of Africa, one of them would be the I want to say it's the Lumba tribe. You will see Neanderthal DNA because they left and they came back. Who's to say those Neanderthals were black? Don't know. Papua New Guinea, those people are African, my opinion. They left Africa a long time ago. One of the first things, if we won't believe in evolution and all that, one of the first things that evolved, and this come from Rick Kittles, the owner of African ancestry. One of the first things that evolved is your DNA. Come where you are. This is just my opinion. But these people, now that was not my opinion. I'm repeating what Rick Kittle said about your DNA evolving. Uh in Rick Kittle's when Anthony was talking about Native American, he said the 2 states that would have people with Native American DNA would be Louisiana and Oklahoma. Most black people, like he said, and the people in Louisiana and Oklahoma that have native DNA would have about, on average, like Anthony said, would have like 2%. The rest of the people just saying that they're just trying to be something that they are not. The Pangea thing, 250 million years. Wasn't nobody walking around on. We wouldn't hear no 250 million years ago. Man, we need to cut it out. But these people, they are loud, they are wrong, and they are loud, and they are winning the hearts of because I'm gonna tell you, I now go back to this whenever we had this conversation up here, and Black still say they just on YouTube, just like the FBA or stuff, because that's part of that's FBA too. They the natives too. They the indigenous. They the aborigine, whatever. No, man, these people have made it to the streets. Told you, a black guy who I used to go and shop with. He owned the farmer's market. He literally tried, man, ain't no indigenous in you. No, dude, my ancestors come from Africa, but we we the foundation of black America. No, dude, I'm an African American. And it did not start with Jesse Jackson. It started way before him. Ain't no indigenous in your DNA. Dude, black people not indigenous to this land. Stop claiming other people's history. Like Dr. John Henry Clark said, every people have a history and every people have their story. We need to learn our history. We don't need to do like white people and try to take other people's history. That's what they have done, and that's what I see us doing now. We are so connected to white folks. The relationship between black people and America and white people is so strange that in every way we try to beat them down to the point where we gonna steal other people's history just like they did. I hear the mic.
I would like to respond to that, to Brother McCarvey, what he just said.
Make it brief for me because we got other topics to get to, right?
Yeah, real quick. It's not my opinion. That's his opinion. I get his opinion. What I'm talking about is a scientific fact, which you could prove. So there is a fact. Our theory is a fact due to archaeological finding. So there's no other humans. There were no other humans there. There were other hominids, humanoid-like people that were not human. So those humans that went into Europe were, I think they were white people as far they were melanated, but they weren't black. They intermingled with those Neanderthals, which are not human. Neanderthals are not human. Homo
They are
sapien
human. They're
sapien.
not Homo sapien. They're not. They are
Exactly.
human. They are not Homo
Exactly.
sapien, but
So
they are human.
no, they're not human. They're not. Neanderthals are not human. Neanderthals and Homo sapiens sapien are two different species. The miraculous thing about it that they met
I
each other in that part of Europe, and they had children together. That's why everybody outside of Africa has Neanderthal DNA.
well,
That's all that I'm saying.
and I got you, and I'm gonna say this: the Hokoku can go. And like I said, they met other humans, species. Humans is a species. Homo sapien and Neanderthal is different. Like a
There was
wolf
what was the
and a
name of those
kid.
human species?
Like a wolf. I just named two. Homo sapien, Neanderthal was a species of human. That's
No, it was.
why
It's not.
that's
It's not.
that's what
It's not.
that's why Neanderthal and Homo sapien could breed and make babies and carry on, bruh.
They
That's why they could breed and make
have a
babies and carry
branch.
on.
They come from the same branch, but they branched off into something else. They're not human. It's like saying you have an elephant. They're part. They're two different branches of the same tree. They're not the same. But I'll let Koku go. You guys can just Google it and research it yourself.
Like I always say, when we have these conversations that want to extend, we can always continue the conversation in the chat after the episode is posted, and or we can bring further topics in the future that can flesh out these conversations a little bit more.
And on the Discord, can people please partake in the Discord, please?
Absolutely, great point. So we'll leave that. We'll put a pin in that there. What we'll do in the meantime, because of time, we'll go to Shoot the Breeze topic number 2. But that was a great discussion. I look forward to us continuing that on the Discord or in the chat after the episode is posted. Shoot the Breeze topic number 2 says the new era of Pan-Africanism. Big tune. This takes us to YouTube. This is called The Spy in Bamako, the official video. We'll take a listen and then we'll discuss it.
Yeah, gotta stay focused so when it's in shots, I gotta react. Cause I'm a target, I'm under attack. Grabbing a weapon, I tell her get back. Mission exposed, secrets unfold. Enemy trapping, I'm still in control. Got your boy sitting in Bamako prison, hoping they wish we sending them home. Enemy know that we good under pressure. Been through the thunderous, turbulent storm. Shorty a diamond, I told her she fresh. Hop in a whip and I'm taking her home. Hop in a whip and I'm swerving, I'm smashed. Killing my enemies, one of my passion. Rocking this gold like we in bikini. Feel like the captain, I'm clutching a heater. Feel like they see me, I feel like I'm Saudi or ran up on Yana in the middle of Bamako. Enemy line, they claiming he innocent. Don't do no talking, I gotta move militant. Don't do no talking, I hit them with facts. 1804, bringing it back. 1804 like I'm Mother Cap Henry. King with a vision, the crown never empty. Top of the mountain, my soldiers defend me. Ducking and dodging the foreign intelligence. Hitting my desk on the DGSE. Dodging they traps, still on my feet. Feeling impeccable, feel like I'm shining. Go to my neck and I'm flooded with diamonds. Go to my neck and I feel like a mess. Feel like a lion, I'm in a savannah. Feel like the king when I'm up in the jungle. Never defeated, I never been humble. Come out victorious every encounter. Money machine, give me help when I count it. Money machine, stack it up in a beat. Heart of a king and I ride for the team. Weight of the world got it stuck on my shoulders. Bet you can feel it, my heart get it colder. Yeah, gotta stay focused so when it's in shots, I gotta react. Cause I'm a target, I'm under attack. Grabbing a weapon, I tell her get back. Mission exposed, secrets unfold. Enemy trapping, I'm still in control. Got your boy sitting in Bamako prison, hoping they wish we sending them home. Enemy know that we good under pressure. Been through the thunderous, turbulent storm. Shorty a diamond, I told her she fresh. Hop in a whip and I'm taking her home. Hop in a whip and I'm swerving, I'm smashed. Killing my enemies, one of my passion. Rocking this gold like we in bikini. Feel like the captain, I'm clutching a heater. Yeah, gotta stay focused so when it's in shots, I gotta react. Cause I'm a target, I'm under attack. Grabbing a weapon, I tell her get back. Mission exposed, secrets unfold. Enemy trapping, I'm still in control. Got your boy sitting in Bamako prison, hoping they wish we sending them home. Enemy know that we good under pressure. Been through the thunderous, turbulent storm. Shorty a diamond, I told her she fresh. Hop in a whip and I'm taking her home. Hop in a whip and I'm swerving, I'm smashed. Killing my enemies, one of my passion. Rocking this gold like we in bikini. Feel like the captain, I'm clutching a heater.
So I didn't realize it when I put up this post, but that's Neferkari Dessalines. I didn't pay attention until I heard his voice just now. Shout out to that brother. I know he has an EP. I think he has an EP out now or about to drop, and he's dropped a couple of singles so far. So shout out to him. I'll make sure to tag him when I clip this up. But the response in the chat is very positive. War Drum recognized who it was. Real Black Gentleman says 100, 100, 100. War Drum says more than Griot. Trigger Happy says Neferkari killed it with this song. More diss tracks against imperial armies and not another black person. I agree with that. RBG says no signal. Cheryl E says that John is fire, and RBG says lit. We saw with RBG on this. RBG, what do you, besides saying it's lit, what do you think about this big tune?
Hey, you know what I got to say? Run that shit back one more time.
I'll run it back just because you asked me to. I'll run it back.
Thank you.
Yeah, gotta stay focused so when it's in shots, I gotta react. Cause I'm a target, I'm under attack. Grabbing a weapon, I tell her get back. Mission exposed, secrets unfold. Enemy trapping, I'm still in control. Got your boy sitting in Bamako prison, hoping they wish we sending them home. Enemy know that we good under pressure. Been through the thunderous, turbulent storm. Shorty a diamond, I told her she fresh. Hop in a whip and I'm taking her home. Hop in a whip and I'm swerving, I'm smashed. Killing my enemies, one of my passion. Rocking this gold like we in bikini. Feel like the captain, I'm clutching a heater. Feel like they see me, I feel like I'm Saudi or ran up on Yana in the middle of Bamako. Enemy line, they claiming he innocent. Don't do no talking, I gotta move militant. Don't do no talking, I hit them with facts. 1804, bringing it back. 1804 like I'm Mother Cap Henry. King with the vision, the crown never empty. Top of the mountain, my soldiers defend me. Ducking and dodging the foreign intelligence. Hitting my desk on the DGSE. Dodging they traps, still on my feet. Feeling impeccable, feel like I'm shining. Go to my neck and I'm flooded with diamonds. Go to my neck and I feel like a mess. Feel like a lion, I'm in a savannah. Feel like the king when I'm up in the jungle. Never defeated, I never been humble. Come out victorious every encounter. Money machine, give me help when I count it. Money machine, stack it up in a beat. Heart of a king and I ride for the team. Weight of the world got it stuck on my shoulders. Bet you can feel it, my heart get it colder, yeah. Gotta stay focused so when it's in shots, I gotta react. Cause I'm a target, I'm under attack. Grabbing a weapon, I tell her get back. Mission exposed, secrets unfold. Enemy trapping, I'm still in control. Got your boy sitting in Bamako prison. Hoping they wish we sending them home. Enemy know that we good under pressure. Been through the thunderous, turbulent storm. Shorty a diamond, I told her she pressure. Hop in a whip and I'm taking her home, hopping a whip and I'm swerving, I'm smashed. Killing my enemies, one of my passion. Rocking this gold like we in bikini. Feel like the captain, I'm clutching a heater. Yeah, gotta stay focused so when it's in shots, I gotta react. Cause I'm a target, I'm under attack. Grabbing a weapon, I tell her get back. Mission exposed, secrets unfold. Enemy trapping, I'm still in control. Got your boy sitting in Bamako prison. Hoping they wish we sending them home. Enemy know that we good under pressure. Been through the thunderous, turbulent storm. Shorty a diamond, I told her she pressure. Hopping a whip and I'm taking her home. Hopping a whip and I'm swerving, I'm smashed. Killing my enemies, one of my passion. Rocking this gold like we in bikini. Feel like the captain, I'm clutching a heater.
Yes, indeed. Y'all tell Nefakari his tune was played twice on Shoot the Breeze. Wardrum said this is real quick. Wardrum said this is why they co-opted our music. Our music is a method of documenting historical events and inspiration for the future. Trigger Happy says also loves that he parallels the Haitian revolutionary experience with the current revolution in the AES, even with some of his videos pointing out how Haiti dealt with European spies. Cheryl quotes a line. She says, "Shorty a dime, and I told her she precious. Hop in a whip, and I'm taking her home." Yeah, I like that. Shout out to Nefakari. My bad, Real Black Gentleman. What say you to this?
No, I mean that made my day. I needed the intensity. I mean, it's just, you know what I'm saying, a little animated video and all that. But I mean, it's based on, you know what I'm saying, real events. So it's like it's culture. That's culture right there. It's culture. It's another unit of culture. And it's a +1. You know what I'm saying? When we need +1s out here, that's a +1. Like, well done. I mean, that's all I got to say. Well done. I'm gonna pass the mic. Well done.
Well done, Black man. Appreciate that. RBG. Let me hear from Brother Bakari on this. Brother Bakari, what say you? Look like Bakari may have stepped away or he's on mute. With that said, I guess let me hear from Black Steel. Black Steel, what say you?
I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. I enjoy his music. I'm a recent subscriber to Nefakari Desalegn. It's based on, kind of based on some of the videos that I've seen here, on that you guys have shared on the panel. He also, I liked how he went after that black lawyer who was talking about getting reparations from African tribes. I thought it was, and the dude got so mad he sued him. So I really like the music, and I like him as a content creator too. I think rap music, hip hop music was created by Black people, and it was created in a way to allow us to speak to our history and our conditions that we went through, and it was quickly co-opted, and it's been turned against us. So I'm glad to see that we are using hip hop for what it was originally meant to be, which was a way to spread knowledge and our culture. So I'm glad to see it being used for what it was initially created to be used for. So I'll do that there. Thanks.
Appreciate that, Black Steel. I don't know if Bakari came back yet, but
yeah, I'm back. I apologize for that, man. Somebody had come to my door, man. I'm sorry about that.
Jehovah's Witnesses coming by the houses late at night.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you something, Black Steel. I'm part of the Jehovah's Witness protection program. They're scared to stop by my house.
Bakari, do you like that song?
I like that song. I'm gonna put that in my playlist with the song I sent you the other day. Remember the song I sent you? I said we need more of this, the lyrics and the visual.
Yes, sir.
I'll put that song in the same playlist. I'll put that song on the playlist with it. We need people who's doing hip hop, who's doing music, since our people look up to that so much. We need, but see, we have to push it. The media is not gonna push it. Radio not gonna push it. None of these rappers out here today, you ain't gonna hear none of them. Excuse me. You ain't gonna hear none of them talk about this song. You ain't gonna hear none of them talk about that song I sent you the other day. So if this is something we want to hear, we have to play it all the time. And not just that, when they come out, we have to go support them on whatever streaming service you have and spend our money on that stuff to help them blow up. I hear the mic.
That's an absolute fact what you just said. So I'm going to look at. I heard his freestyle on the AES. I didn't hear this song, but I'll definitely go and check to see if he dropped the whole album, and I'll definitely be purchasing it myself. I'm glad he didn't have a line in there like "I'm white on the inside." What did I
Louis
do?
Armstrong. Louis Armstrong. You should play it for him. Cool. You should let everybody hear I'm white on the inside, but it really doesn't help my case. What did I do wrong to be so black and blue?
Yeah, man. At least it wasn't that. But with that said, man, let's hear from our brother Anthony on this. Anthony, what say you to?
Oh, y'all want to play games tonight, huh, Coco? Hey, Coco, don't act like you ain't hear me. Coco there and Bakari want to get in there too, huh? With the black and blue, huh? Want to talk about a Louisiana man, huh? I hear you. Yeah, I hear you.
You need to tell them Louisiana people to stop making songs like that.
Hey, I know one thing. We had more UNI chapters than anybody else did. Okay, so let's say that. But hey, man, look here. Y'all know good and well. Okay, we're gonna talk about that later. But we talk about Nebuchadnezzar right now. Hey, man, I love the brother's music, man. I've been on him for the last couple of years, man. He's been around for a couple of years now. But yeah, he got. I think it's an EP because I got about 3 or 4 of the songs. I'm not sure if it's a whole album, but I know it's an EP. But I got about 3 or 4 of the songs, though, man. Yeah, and he like what he's doing ain't nobody else doing right now but a couple other people. And a matter of fact, and this gonna tie in with like what the problem was when we talk about this new Pan-Africanism. Okay, the Pan-Africanism now has shifted to the continent and to our young people on the continent. Now it's another brother. He's from Ghana. I don't know if y'all heard of him. He's from Ghana, and he got a little jam out, and I can't think of the name of it, but I got the song in my playlist. But his name is Fuse OG. Fuse OMG. Have y'all heard of him? He had a song a couple years ago called Brafe, and he was reaching out to Africans in America, like come back home. You know what I'm saying? But they got a jam out now. It's Fuse ODG. Fuse ODG. He's a Ghanaian artist. And and all his music is like Pan-Africanism, like linking the diaspora with Africa and everything. So yeah, but Jay Celine's a bad man though, man. He's a bad man. But yeah, and I love his music. And it's another sister she's from Nigeria. Her name is Ina Moore, but she's coming out of the UK. And she just had a song out last year called For My People. Where she's like tying all black people everywhere, all over the world, unifying together, and us coming together, So like the Pan-Africanism, like the ship has been back to the continent now with our young people, with the advent of Traore and with the brothers in the Sahel states, and with other leaders coming around now, like joining along with them, and whereas at one time, Pan-Africanism was like it started with the diaspora. With Africans here in America, with Africans in the Caribbean, with our great leaders like A. Sylvester Williams and Hubert Harrison, and probably our most underrated Pan-Africanist elder who was from Haiti, Antonio Furman, who was probably the best out of all of them. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, it's shifting now though, man. It's shifting back to the continent where it at first it came from over this way, but now it's shifting back to the continent, man. And it's our young and where it need to be, because like my mama always said, share the story at home and spread abroad. You know what I'm saying? So it needs to take root in the continent, because for a long time, man, look here, Pan-Africanism didn't mean nothing in the continent. I mean, it means something for the thinkers, for the theoreticians, for our brain people. You know what I'm saying? But for the people on the ground, it didn't, because they was under so much corruption and neo-colonialism and Western all the shit they was against. That to them, the main thing was how I'm gonna survive today, how I'm gonna eat today, how I'm gonna provide for my family. But see, now that our people eyes are opening, our young people now, we got a young population now who the majority, and like they fed up with the bullshit that our people been going through on the continent for so long, and they saying we want our freedom now, our independence, our sovereignty. No, we want unity. We want everything that we need to have to make Africa a strong, powerful nation. You know, a united Africa, whatever. And I'm glad to see it shifting there, and I'm glad to see other voices like a Neferkari, you know, and like Fuse ODG and all these other people in the diaspora outside of like America and outside of the West, you know, who are putting Pan-Africanism on the forefront now. And I'll pass the mic.
Good stuff, Anthony. Thank you for that. Yeah, Trigger Happy said it's ODG Fuse. He said Fuse was so impactful when Azonto, I guess that's a genre of music, was popular in Ghana. Fun times. He says I later learned he made conscious music, which was beautiful. I gotta write this down. I gotta make sure I check out these folks you guys are mentioning. So like Brother Bakari talked about, I'm really trying to do a music project, just like you know, people to listen for who's doing conscious music in the you know, across the diaspora. Maybe creating a top 10 list or something in the future. So I'll keep ODG Fuse in mind. Shout out to Beyond Fair, who's in the chat. I guess he's looking for someone here, but shout out to Beyond Fair for joining us tonight. Is there any last thoughts on this prompt here before we move on to Shoot the Breeze topic number 3?
Yeah, let me say something right quick. Hey,
all right,
it's just not necessarily this prompt, but the person I was talking about, since I ain't know we were saying names, y'all need to go check out Kirby Sings. Go listen to that one with her and Big Crit, Miss Black America, where you see the black woman and the black man. They two black kids as the president, first lady of this country, and listen to the one she did called Reparations. Her name is Kirby. If you put in YouTube Kirby Sings, listen to that one she did about reparations. I just want to say that.
Yeah, good tune. War Drum will get the last word from the chat. He drops the fire emoji about 4 times. So Shooter Breeze topic number 3 tonight says white scholars and even Pan-Africanists alike misinterprets the role of Mansa Musa as a leader of the Mali Empire completely wrong. He was deeply connected to the African mode of production. This, of course, comes with a link that looks like it's going to take us to TikTok. TikTok and you don't stop. So we'll watch this video and then we'll discuss it.
Richest man ever. What if I told you that in his world that title didn't even make sense? Grab your brushes or whatever it is that you need. We're about to rewrite the story the internet keeps getting wrong. You probably heard of Mansa Musa, the man the internet calls the richest in history, but that title, it's a Western thing. In Mali's culture, the gold, land, and resources weren't just for his tableau. They belonged to the empire. The king's job was to look after it and use it to keep the whole place thriving. So then why does the West keep hyping up this richest man ever thing? Because Western history loves turning leaders into luxury brands. They measure greatness by how much you own personally and not by how much you protect or build for your people. It's essentially the same capitalist logic that celebrates billionaires today, which doesn't doesn't really fit African communal values at all. In Mande political tradition, a ruler's reputation came from how well they kept the empire strong, united, and prosperous, not how much gold they stacked in their palace. That's why in Mali's worldview, Musa's real legacy wasn't his net worth, it was the schools, mosques, and cultural centers he left behind. And he really did build. Under Musa, Timbuktu wasn't just a trading city, it became a global intellectual hub. He funded Sankore University, where scholars studied everything from law and theology to astronomy and medicine. Imagine the Harvard of the 1300s, but in West Africa. Now, about that famous pilgrimage to Mecca in 1324. People say he went with thousands of people and so much gold that he crashed Egypt's economy, which is kinda true. But the reason behind the trip is where it gets interesting. The Hajj wasn't just about religion. Though Musa was a devout Muslim, it was also about politics and public relations. He was showing the Islamic world that Mali was powerful, stable, and rich enough to be a major player in global affairs. When he passed through Cairo, Musa gave so much gold to the poor, to officials, to merchants, that the value of gold in Egypt dropped for over a decade, but it was also argued by economists that the decade-long impact may have been exaggerated. It's possible the economic dip lasted several years rather than a full 10. But Western writers love to paint that as reckless, but generosity was a mark of honor in both the Mande and Islamic tradition. To them, it wasn't economic sabotage. It was blessing people with barakah. It's the same reason African rulers hosted huge feasts or gifted cattle. Wealth was meant to circulate, not sit in a vault. And that's something Western capitalism doesn't understand. And of course, Musa's story isn't without debate. Some African oral traditions, especially in griot circles, focus more on Sundiata Keita, the empire's founder, and see Musa as more of a transitional figure than a legendary hero. But don't get it twisted, not because Musa was unimportant, but more because Sundiata is the empire's mythical founder and occupies the center heroic role in the Sundiata epic. But even in those traditions, his name still carries weight. He's remembered for bringing Mali into global conversations, connecting West Africa to North Africa, the Middle East, and beyond. So when the West talks about him only in terms of the richest man alive, it flattens the story. It erases the cultural context, the political brilliance, and the fact that his wealth was never really his to begin with. It's like taking an African communal leader and measuring him by Wall Street rules. Babe, you completely missed the point. Bottom line, Mansa Musa wasn't just a gold hoarder or a walking ATM. He was a strategist, a builder, and a bridge between worlds. So next time someone tries to make him sound like a medieval Jeff Bezos, tell them the truth, babe. He was a steward of Mali's wealth.
So that's interesting. Hold on a second before this goes somewhere else. So that's interesting that the prompt says that Mansa Musa is a leader of the Mali Empire, who was deeply connected to the African mode of production. So I guess when we talk about this, we should talk about the mode of production. The traditional mode of production was more communalism, and involved trade that had, far-reaching trade, I guess. Correct me if I'm wrong about that. But I know communalism is the biggest part of the African mode of production. I know it also includes like what's the term? Tributes and lineage based wealth and all that kind of stuff. So if you guys have a chance, I know Camjiverse did a video detailing the African mode of production in the past. So that was a couple of things I remember him saying in that video. With that said, let me start with Black Steel on this. Black Steel will know something about modes of production. Black Steel, what are your thoughts on this idea that we get it wrong when we talk about Mansa Musa?
Well, thank you for giving me a chance to finish chewing my food, Koku. I appreciate it.
Take your time.
But excuse me. I think the way history is taught, history is often taught through a Eurocentric lens, right? So even when we speak about African rulers, like to the young lady's point, we understand them in the context of European rulers. And the idea of him, being the richest person in the world, is something that people point to as a source of pride. But also, too, how do we conceptualize wealth, right? How do we consider wealth and things like that? Also, too, looking at, and it's funny because in my school district, our first unit is usually on, medieval Christian Europe, but our second unit is usually on Islam in Africa. So we do talk a little bit about Mansa Musa, and one of the hooks that you can get the kids hooked on is talking about his wealth, because we live in a capitalist society and wealth is valued. But then also we understand when we're teaching the history, we're teaching it through a Eurocentric lens. So what people who are communal, right? Again, like she was saying, well, this should be shared. You determine your wealth on base how giving you are, how much you can give away, how much you can donate to the poor. I know that there are also some cultures in the Pacific Northwest in the United States. They have what they call like a potlatch, where they they get together and they give away gifts to show the wealth of the person who is hosting the party. So I think that goes along with a lot of cultures that are more communal rather than individualistic. But I will say this though, as far as understanding the history, I think I want to hear more from Trigger about him faking being Muslim, because that's a hell of a fake out for you to travel all the way to Mecca, right, and build all these mosques and translate the Quran and learn Arabic. That's a hell of a fake out, right? But I also think that just from my understanding, it's just the knowledge and the wealth that he brought. But also too, I will say this: some people have criticized Musa because of when he brought all that gold into the Islamic world, and word of his wealth reached its way not only via to the Islamic world, but also to the medieval Christian world too. I mean, at this time, Europe was in the midst of the plague. The plague, which decimated about a third of Europe's population. 50 million people dying from the plague. So word of Musa's wealth not only reached the Islamic world, but the Christian world as well. And many people believe it was hearing about Africa's fabulous wealth that made Africa a target. So that's just my thoughts on that. I've heard people mention that once Musa began to spread his wealth, he made it made people realize how much wealth they had. But again, at this point in history, Black people, African people, don't really see white people as a threat. As I was saying before, in many ways, Europe was behind Africa. Europe was still in the midst of the dark of what we call the Middle Ages, dealing with the plague and everything else. Africa is, a full 100 years ahead of them, economically, scientifically, culturally, and when I guess we speak through things of a historical, we what we call Monday morning quarterback, right? It's easy to see the game once the game is over, but at the time, how did he have a conceptualization of these barbarians could possibly be a threat to him, or were they even on his radar? So I just sometimes with history that we always speaking from hindsight. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Black Steel. Hope you get to finish chewing your food there. Trigger says, I would argue that empires inside of Africa didn't have a need to see them as a threat because they were not as exposed compared to Kemet and Carthage, who were very exposed. With that said, let's hear from RBG, who's active in the chat. RBG would say.
Yeah, I'm not with trying to giving, Islamic veneers to African reasonings. I mean, Mansa Musa gave away so much gold that he depressed the whole economy of Egypt. Oh, come on. Like, why? I mean, really? I mean, for all that, why you could have taken a lot to the Congo, like I'm trying to say, bro. Like, that it's just like on its face. No, there's no reasoning to try to after the fact say that it was a good thing. I like Black Steel said, I kind of think that it kind of led to a drawing to the wealth of Africa when everyone's kind of starving and stuff. It what I say in the chat, tricking for Allah, bruh. You gave away all the money to these to them folks and them. You saw some belly dancers, you know, say throw some coins on the ground. What you do? I mean, the thing is, didn't his brother send a mission to the Americas after that? I don't know what it was, or it was I think it was Abu Bakr. I'm sorry, I'm mixing dynasties, my bad. But like that has more merit than giving away all the gold on its face. I cannot agree with it, and I think it's just it couldn't have done good for African people to give away. Everyone loves some good gold. I mean, everyone loves gold. They're having gold statues in Zimbabwe. Everyone likes gold. It's nice. It's fun. It's fun metal. It's ductile. Everyone recognizes it's a special metal. It's the best. In a lot of ways, one of the best things you can give to someone is a good piece of gold. And you want to just like go to Mecca. It's kind of like Malcolm X, you know, going to Mecca. We sometimes we don't bring up that Malcolm too much. And it's like, at that point, I think he was like, I don't think this is it. A lot of it was like, I don't think this is it. You know what I'm saying? Trying to go into that, you know, it's kind of egalitarian and, you know, it's of the book, it's the pilgrimage. And, you know, we all are going on this mission together, head ass kind of energy. And so, like, I'm not with it at all. He took production. He did the right thing for the wrong people. That's as simple as I could have. Hell, like, you know, the connections I mean, again, like, and this is where, and it's just the nature of the world that I think that we have to move from this whole Mediterranean, you know, we have to make the Mediterranean the real belt of Africa. The Central Africa is going to be has to be the future middle world. All travel connections have to run through Central Africa, period. It can't run up through across the desert. Nah, it has to be a hard central in the middle type, you know, energy about a lot of it. And that's that. I think that going, I mean, I think he had a conception of the world. I mean, you can't, you know, I mean, I'm rambling, but I have the worst about it. I don't like it. I'm gonna pass the mic.
So let me just try to kind of bring it back, I guess. The prompt is about Mansa Musa, the leader of the Mali Empire, and you know a lot of you are mentioning the criticisms of Mansa Musa going around giving away all his gold to the point that he crashes the gold market, which was in Cairo at the time, right? And like Black Steel mentioned, that is seen by many scholars as the reason for Africa becoming its target 100 or 2 years later. Actually, maybe 300 years, no, 200 years later. And so that's one thing, right? We could criticize him for that, but I think what the prompt is trying to do is shed the light on, you know, if we look at him purely through the lenses of today, we would have a problem in accurately analyzing Mansa Musa in that in the time that he would have reigned and lived, and because he was practicing the African mode of production, which is communalism, which is the wealth isn't hoarded, but you give to the needy, etc. And that's what he was doing. I think the idea is that we are not going to give him his proper due in that he was being, you know, even though he was Muslim, you know, based on the name, etc., he was actually practicing the African mode of production. He was not hoarding wealth. He had wealth, but he wasn't hoarding. He was given to people who needed it. I think the problem, and some of you kind of mentioned it, is he was given to people who would see that as a weakness and become our enemy. So how do we deal with the two things? Two things can can be true sometimes. How do we deal with the fact that, you know, he was kind of giving away all his gold, crashed the Cairo market, probably put a target on the backs of Africans that eventually would lead to the Ma'afa and all this stuff that we've been dealing with for the last however many years, however many decades. But at the same time, he was doing the African thing, which is a good thing, you know, practicing communalism. I am because you are, etc. So I just want to recenter it to the two things, and the two things can be true. How do we deal with it, though? Do we throw him away wholesale, even though he was practicing the kind of, you know, traditional African lifestyle of giving to the needy if you have an abundance? Do we just throw him away completely? So I think that's kind of, if not in whole, at least in part, in good part, what the prompt is trying to really get at. So let's talk about those two things when we respond to it. I'll bring it back around so everyone can respond to it in that way. But with that said, let me hear from Brother Bakari on that.
Okay, what's going on? Look, I wasn't going to respond like them. I'm glad you said what you said. But for me, when they talk Mansa Musa, he was a Muslim, right? So then when you go deep and study Mansa Musa, go look and see some of the words on the streets, how he treated black people, how he treated other African people for Arabs, for those Muslims who taught him Islam. How did he become, excuse me, how did he become Muslim? See, if that was a Christian, hey, everybody been talking about, yeah, he did that, but he was a Christian, and we know how Christianity came into Africa. For some reason, being a Muslim get a pass. He gave away some money. We can say he was practicing the African communal thing, but look and see what he did to other African people for Arabs. Look and see. Don't think that he didn't give African people to Arabs for slaves. And when you study him, even when I talk about the guy, the Prince of Slaves, Anthony knows his name, I don't. Look and see what tribe he was from. Even though it's much after Mansa Musa, but those same Muslims was in charge. Those same Muslims was in charge. And look and see how the treatment of other people that were not Muslim was passed down. They fought with the Muslims against other African people, and they fought with the Europeans against other African people for the sake of Islam, because they felt they were better. And if you study Mansa Musa a little bit, they say he did the same thing. Was he practicing African communal practices? Yeah, we can say that. What he did, I don't even know who was in charge in Egypt when he gave what RBG was saying. I kind of agree. RBG wasn't just talking about him giving the money away. RBG was talking about the people he was riding with, being a Muslim and what he chose. So is he really practicing African? Does he really have African communal practices? Or is he doing something that's going to benefit him and people like him, his tribe, the Muslims, and not care about the others? On that, I yield the mic.
I appreciate that analysis, Brother Bakari. Real quick in the chat, Trigger Happy says, you have to understand North Africa is very important to inner Africa in terms of trade. Whoever controls that has leverage to inner African nations. He goes on to say, I don't think we should give him, being Mansa Musa, a pass, but more so understand what Mansa Musa was, and even understand that he was also grounded in an African perspective too. Now, Brother Bakari gave some interesting insight to Mansa Musa as well, so I'd like to see what Trigger would say to Brother Bakari about that. But with that said, let me hear from Anthony McPhail in the meantime.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you know, okay, I like what you said at first, Koku, about two things could be true. Okay. But first, let's get this out of the way. Mansa Musa, I call him Gunga Musa, his own name. Mansa Musa was, okay, he's a polarizing figure in our story as people, as African people. Okay, let's start out one thing. Okay, let's not neglect the fact Mansa Musa was an intelligent man. He was an intelligent man, and he was shrewd. He was a politician. Okay, I mean, he was politically shrewd. Now, it was important for him in building up his power, in the Mali, and building up Mali to be a world power as it was recognized at that time, to have connections with and don't get me wrong, I'm not justifying none of the bullshit he did. I think on the one hand, I think he was a terrible motherfucker. But I'm saying he had to have access, because of Mali's location, or he needed access to the Mediterranean, to the ports of Morocco, and to North Africa and to the European markets. Because see, contrary to popular belief, the gold was not the main thing in Mali. Was not the main thing. It was rich in gold, but gold wasn't the main thing. The two main things were, number one was salt, the salt trade. The salt trade was the most important. It was more important than gold. And after that, it was the book trade, because we always hear about how he built up the University of Saint-Clair in Timbuktu. It was a massive book trade. Mansa Musa collected books and knowledge from all over the world, man, all over the world of that day. And it was a huge trade. That's just right. Right now, it was so many books at the library of in Timbuktu. It was just some brother from Mali who just rescued like 250,000 books. Just recently, it was in the news, in the headlines just recently. But the book trade, the salt trade was even more important than the gold trade. And then after the book trade and the salt trade, it was, unfortunately, it was the slave trade. Mansa Musa, he was a participant in the Saharan slave trade. The trade that went from Egypt across the Sahara and into the markets of Morocco, in North Africa, in which from there Africans were shipped to parts of Europe and the Near East and Turkey and places like that. I'm saying, but it's hard. Like I say, he's such a polarizing figure because on the one hand, he was a great man. He was a giant of a man in our history in Africa. For all of the accomplishments that he did as far as his nation. Yeah, we could say, yeah, he embraced Islam. He went to Mecca. He did all of that. And we could look at it one way, coming from whatever paradigm you're coming from. But I think he was being strategic. What I'm saying? Also, like I said, he was a shrewd politician. Because one story that a lot of people don't know, when he went to Mecca, it was this thing where on the pilgrimage where they had to bow down to the holy men and all this stuff here. Well, Mansa Musa refused to do that. He said he was the king of Mali. He wouldn't bow down to nobody. You know what I'm saying? So I'm saying he had some kind of strategic. He was politically a strategic man. But like Koku, like you said, he two things could be true. On the one hand, he was a great man. On the one hand, if you look at him, but on the other hand, he did some terrible shit, man. I mean, he was engaged in some terrible shit, and meaning the slave trade, and meaning the spread of Islam. You know what I'm saying? Because the Africans that he traded were the Africans. Damn, this motherfucker calling me. But he traded with the Africans who were non-Muslims. You know what I'm saying? Like it was like either hey, you got to get down or lay down. If you ain't one of us. You know what I'm saying? And you got shipped off somewhere else. To somewhere to Morocco or somewhere to Cairo or somewhere to some Arab land far away. You know what I'm saying? So we had to look at him, and that's it. We look at him in two different ways. Both ways we look at him, we're gonna look at him from a Western paradigm, or we're gonna look at him from an Islamic paradigm, like the sister. She a Muslim, so of course you're gonna look at him like that. And for Muslims, black Muslims, we look at him that way. If we black Muslims, but then if we we look at it from a Western paradigm, we're gonna see him that way. But we never see him. We need to learn how to see him from the African paradigm, and just look at him and say, like, yes, on the one hand, he was a great man. that did a lot of great things, you know. And when I say great, I'm not saying nice or loving or whatever, but I'm saying for the things that he did, he accomplished for his people and for his nation. But at the same time, you know, hell, you know, a lot of Germans thought Adolf Hitler did some good shit for them. You know what I'm saying? And other people said, no, he was a devil. But I'm just saying, you know, he like you said, Koku, I agree with you. Two things could be true. You know, we could look at him both ways. We have to look at him both ways. We can't just look at him just one way. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he was me personally. I don't look at him as a hero. I don't look at him as a hero. I look at him as an important part of our history on the African continent. You know, because you had to take the good with the bad. You know what I'm saying? Okay, he played his role, and his role was a bad role to some degree. But nevertheless, it was a role. You know what I'm saying? Because, I mean, it's just like in Nzinga. We worship Queen Nzinga. You know what I'm saying? But Nzinga also was engaged in trading Africans too. But I'm just saying, so, I mean, two things could be true, man. You know, it was good and bad. And, you know, we just have to, decide on which side. You know, me, he wasn't a hero. He's not somebody that I hold in high regard. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, man, two things could be true. I'll leave it at that, Coco.
Yeah, good stuff, Anthony. Real quick in the chat, Trigger Happy 262 Plus says, okay, so this is one of the points that I think needs to be contextualized. There's no African empire that had a quote-unquote slave mode of production. If you were a servant, you were likely enfranchised. So the talking point is Trigger Happy. So the talking point of other people may have a different perspective to white Arabs and how they dealt with people. Wardrum says, we can't forget the slave trade was not practiced the same way everywhere. We can't be sure if Mansa Musa, knew that. Trigger says, no, I can't agree, talking to Anthony, I can't agree that she was looking at him from an Islamic perspective. She made a clear and cogent analysis of how his wealth was used, and it was clearly the African mode of production. Also, Great House on Twitter has some evidence that argues that apparently Mali was not really involved in the slave trade as much as people think, but I have to look into it, says Trigger Happy. So this is the opportunity for folks to give their...
Coco, I got it. Let me respond real quick. Okay. I mean, can I respond real quick?
Yeah, go ahead, brother. Go ahead.
Okay, all right. Okay, I understand what the people in the chat were saying. Okay, I respect that, but the facts is the facts. Okay, now we're not talking about the slave trade as it was later when the Europeans got involved in it, where it was just this, this massive number of Africans, being trafficked across the ocean. Okay, but you got to remember, the slave trade was way before then. The Arabs had been into the slave trade in East Africa ever since after the rise of Islam, ever since the 600s, 700s. Okay, it started way then, and it was also going on in North Africa too, with these Muslim Arabs, people in North Africa trading with some Muslim African leaders in below the Sahara, beyond the Sahara, in the Kanem Bornu Empire based in Chad and Nigeria. You know what I'm saying? And in the Mali Empire, and even in the later Songhai Empire. You know what I'm saying? And in other places, Bagrami and Wadai, I did my study. They was doing trade. They was trading Africans to the Arabs. Now, it may not have been the millions and millions like it was later, but that was a thing. They were trading Africans to the market, the Mediterranean market, where they were shipping Africans all over the Near East, in Turkey, in parts. That's why you see these black people in parts of Russia, in places like that. You wonder where they call them where these people came from. This was from the North African slave trade. They call it the Nilo-Saharan slave trade. I mean, it's well documented, and I've read about it. So I mean, let's not pretend that it didn't happen. It did happen.
Can I say one thing right quick, Coco? Then I'm gonna go real quick. I promise.
You take your time. Go ahead.
What I want to say is, once again, funky nasty ass Arabs get a pass for what they did to black people. They can get a pass. It was practiced different. No, it wouldn't. It was not practiced different. Go look and see how many black people dinglings was cut off. Dealing with them. Then make them be a slave army. It was not done. I understand the European descendant people over here in this country have had their foot on African Americans' necks forever, since we've been here. But to act like what the Arabs did was so much different is just wrong. And we give them nasty bastards a pass. They still have slaves in the Arab world today. And they get a pass. I ain't telling nobody to dislike Mansa Musa. But Mansa Musa was a part of that tribe, that royal bloodline. That's what they did. And when the bastard got caught and came here to Natchez, Mississippi, and lied and said he was a Moor to get out of saying he was an Arab, when they got ready to send him to Morocco, he told them he couldn't go because they would enslave him. Arabs didn't learn from Europeans to treat us like this. Stop giving them a pass.
Well said. Does anyone else? Trigger, I don't know if you sent the tweet, but my Discord on my desktop is acting up. I noticed this earlier today too. I don't know why it's doing that, but so I can't show the tweet right now. But if you want to bring it back as a topic next week, you could do so. I just can't open my Discord right now. Does anyone else have any last thoughts on this prompt? War Drum in the chat says the Arabs are nothing but white people. It said the original Arab is the Moor. Go ahead.
Yeah, just basically that, history, there's critical parts of history and demographics. They have to be the flesh has to be put on those bones. When we talk about North Africa, it was becoming more and more the eunuchs and the chopping off of the manhood. Yeah, that will decrease a pop. I mean, that's terrorism. You can imagine like how that went down. Like that had to be a very selective and very methodical process. Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened the way that they did. I mean, otherwise, North Africa would be a lot darker. They chopped away black manhood in order to lighten the population, full stop. So you got to think about the demographics to a lot of it. That's all. It's messed up that I think that we as just in general, I wish we had another scholar. I wish I could be that scholar to write the book, filling in a lot of the gaps in history. Because I think about the gaps in history a lot. That's all I got to say.
I can't show the tweet here because, like I said, my Discord on desktop is not working. But basically, I'm looking at my phone. Great House says Mansa Musa is recorded in the Tariq al-Sudan for buying slaves just to set them free. Amongst other acts of generosity he was renowned for. Why would a reputed slave trader buy more slaves just to set them free? So that was the supporting tweet that Trigger Happy wanted me to put up on the screen, that Mansa Musa used his wealth to buy and free some of the African enslaved. I'll ask again, is there any last thoughts with that new piece of information? Is there any last thoughts on Mansa Musa?
I only say this is that history can be complicated, right? Historical figures are people too, right? And there's good and there's bad with them all. No one is totally, black, totally white. We all have some things that can be pointed to that can be negative or positive, right? So I think that when we have these discussions, right, not to lean too much toward one side, lean too much towards the other. I think if we can take the whole person and have a better understanding of the whole person, I think we can have a better analysis is all.
Appreciate that, Black Steel. In the chat, Wardrum says the gaps are the Hebrews, Moors, and Abrahamic religion. That is the original ingredients of our downfall. Cheryl is in the chat still. She says Mansa had a contradiction. His heart belonged to Africa, but his mind belonged to the sandcracker. Trigger says, also keep in mind, too, that document would shit on Malian leaders that say Mansa Musa was the greatest. To be fair to the panel, Mali probably involved, no doubt, but it depends on the leader. Hence, there likely was a difference in how Mansa Musa operated. Regardless, too, African empires do not have a slave mode of production either. I think someone was trying to say something. Or maybe not. All right. With that said, let me go to Shoot the Breeze topic. Wait, Bakari, were you saying something? I think there might be a delay with Bakari or something. Cheryl says there's that contradiction similar to Gavi and Christianity. With that said, let's go to Shoot the Breeze topic number. Shoot the Breeze topic number 4 says, do we devalue marriage because of our historical, linguistic, and cultural rupture that's argued by Zanu? This takes us to YouTube. We're going to play a little bit more than 10 minutes of this so you can sit back, take this one in, and then we'll discuss it. This is Frank Zanu. He says blacks should stop marrying each other.
Did you know the reason why there is such an increase in divorce among African American is because black people don't like black people? Well, according to my next guest who's here to talk about that, that's his conclusion. Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of 2.0. I'm happy to be connected with you. I'm happy to be back on your screen today. And I just want to take a moment to say thank you to all of you who come back week after week to watch our episodes. We really appreciate it. We thank you for the love and support. And if you're new here, we just want to extend the invitation to you to go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so that every time we release an episode, you will be notified. So today I have a wonderful gentleman in the studio with me today that we're going to be talking about a topic that is very near and dear. I've been talking about this for the whole month, and we had different guests who've been talking about it. And today is just basically a continuation of this topic because he was, grateful enough to have me on his podcast where we had the first episode, we talked about it. And today we're just talking about part 2. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, help me introduce on the set of 2.0, my dear friend, Frank Zanu. Frank, how you doing, man?
Very good.
Hey, welcome to 2.0.
Thank you. It's a nice studio, yeah.
Oh.
Thank you so much. And thank you for coming on the show on Wednesday.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Quite a spirited discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we said earlier, for this month, we've been talking about the divorce epidemic that we are seeing, just in the world, really. And I know when we were on your podcast, we talked about the rise that we were seeing, and especially within the African American. And it was funny because, your conclusion is because black people don't like black people, or we don't support one another. And that's why, if we don't support one another in other areas, then how can we truly support one another in the romantic life, right?
That's right.
Yeah. So would you, just talk about that a little bit?
Well, you did ambush me there when you said, I said, we don't like each other. See, it's a serious topic.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's got to do with us. It's got to do with our children.
Yeah.
It's got to do with our future.
Mm-hmm.
And there is no question about it.
Right.
You don't need to go and look at statistics. Everybody says it. And it's not just that divorce,
mm-hmm.
but it hurts people. it hurts the women, it hurts children,
right,
and then it hurts our community.
Absolutely.
And it cannot continue. So I'm really happy that you've brought up this topic. You think about it. You look at the Breakfast Club with a huge following, and you will think things like this that affect us, they will bring on people to start talking. No, but they will have Umar Johnson to come and yab about people who are going for snow bunnies and stuff like that. It's just ridiculous. You know?
Yeah.
So when you came on my show, yes, this is the part 2. And let me go back and then refresh people's
right,
because after I have made my comments, you asked me, so what is the solution? And I said, well, we should stop marrying each other. You know, somebody said, what is the cause of divorce? And I said, marriage is the cause of divorce. But I am no expert on marriage or on any human relationship or anything like that. I'm not even a psychologist, but what I have trained myself to do as a result of my background is, you know, I'm trained to be a journalist. So I've learned how to collect information about any particular phenomena, collect enough information,
right,
and leave the central one, because everybody goes for the quick one,
right,
which is emotional and, you know, less tasking. Why are they divorcing each other? Oh, the women don't care, the men don't care. The government is making women drive their men out of home. That is the easiest one, you know. And if we continue, well, that is not going to yield any solution.
Right.
So, like I told you on my show, when you sent the topic to me, I began to look at entries in Google and I look at many podcasts, and I said, no, nobody is talking about this.
Right. Yeah.
And so I began to look at the relationship between and among blacks as a whole.
Yep.
Men to men, men and women, parents and children.
Right.
We have to look at all that. And then we can say, why do we think this one particular institution will be different?
Yeah.
So when I came to this country, the first thing you hear very commonly is that blacks don't support each other. When a black person opens a supermarket or a grocery store, blacks won't go there.
Yeah.
The second one is that blacks have what we call the crabs in the bucket mentality. When a black person is trying to do good, the others will drag him down.
Yeah.
We talk about black on black violence.
Right.
Almost all cities across the United States of America. Okay. So you look at all that and you ask yourself, why? If people really like each other.
Yeah.
And number two, in this country, blacks share a common history. They were brought here from Africa to be slaves.
Right, unwillingly.
You would think that that condition, when it was over, that would force us to become the most tightest, neatest community in America.
Right.
We've seen it with other groups.
Yeah, of course.
So that alone raised a lot of questions in my mind. How can a people who suffer the same condition historically are the ones now who hurt each other most? So with all the things I've said, then I said the conclusion is then the marriage institution wouldn't work.
Yeah.
The thing is, okay, in nature, the male, you know, is attracted to the female.
Right.
That is natural. Just on it. All right. So if you see a woman, you're a man, you're going to be attracted to the woman.
Of course.
But we've forgotten that that is just purely instinctual, right? That is the animal level.
Emotional, yeah.
Emotional. But marriage is an institution that is only held tight by culture.
Right.
Indians love each other, or Japanese love each other, Koreans, Arabs, you name it. But you see, they marry on the doctrine of their culture.
Right.
They marry to further something.
Right.
Sometimes they're not even aware of it. Koreans still practice eugenics. They don't just marry because you're good looking.
Right.
They have to look at your background and say, well, I'm marrying him or her because I want to further something which is tied to the culture. Why do we marry black people? That's a thing. I don't think anybody thinks about that.
No.
I'm 25 years old. I'm good looking. She's this. Let me marry.
I have a job. I have a house.
job. That's correct.
Yeah.
Even soldiers, when they go to war, they say the objective, you know, capture the enemy dead or alive. That is the objective.
Right.
Or the objective is crush the other country and take over. You know, there is an objective for every human project. You must have an objective.
Right.
The objective becomes the driving force. Marriage must have the most powerful objective. And I think other cultures have shown that they have that objective.
Yeah.
What is our objective? That objective would drive the way you relate to each other. Your children will see it. They don't have to learn marriage.
Right.
They immediately inherit it because they watch dad and mom. And, you know, so when they grow up, they know that this is what I have to do to drive the objective of this institution. So question is, what is our objective? Now, you may think that this is only in America. I'm telling you, on the continent today, it's the same thing.
And the continent you mean by Africa?
Yes.
Okay.
Here, you tend to have a media, okay, and other social outlets that tells the story. You know, people are doing research on it because it affects the economy. It affects crime, a whole lot of things. That's why they discuss it much in America.
Yeah.
Over there on the continent, no, nobody cares about it. The same way people are born and die in any country in Africa, and the government never knew you ever came around because majority of births are not registered. Death is not registered.
Right.
Okay, because you're born in a village, you grew up in a village. But I'm telling you, the divorce epidemic is high.
It is.
And there are two types, like I explained on Wednesday. There is the physical divorce, which is in Africa,
and
which is the guy leaves the house and walk away. And then there is the emotional one, which means he's around, but there is nothing if you walk in there to say that these people are married. Now, this was not the case before what we call countries now were made to become countries. When it was tribes, it was a community. You live close to each other. You can see each other. So it forces the institution to remain. You cannot just walk away from a woman. In any community in Africa, they will call you out. They will have you responsible, or they will disassociate you out of the village.
They will disown you.
But now it's a country. There is no one central culture in a country like Ghana, Nigeria. There's no central culture for the country. So now people are living in neighborhoods and they are doing it, and it's just hurting because, like I said, there is no objective, tribal influenced objective. No.
So do you think the loss of culture is the price we pay for evolution?
Of course, in everything, the loss of culture. That's why most places that were once interrupted, either by invasion, colonization, or when it is over, the first thing they worry about is to go back and fix what they lost, the culture. If you need to create an artificial one, you create it. Plato said in his Republic that to repair Greek, or the civilization at its worst, is that we must move to a different area where the kids are educated differently. And I think Aristotle or somebody came back and said, but who would educate the young ones? The same infected adults will educate the young ones. So many places, they would have to recreate it. If it's a language, you have to. In many places like India, Hindi is now, the official, the widely spoken language in India. So it kind of unites people, language.
So what do you think it all started from? Like, where did we start to lose the culture?
Well, as soon as you arrived here, you were taken from different tribes. So let's say one ship would contain more than 30 different tribes that spoke different languages, different culture, different history, everything, customs and traditions. You arrived here as slaves. You cannot practice those traditions, which holds people together, or the customs, or the language. So the culture is gone. Once language is gone, culture is out of window, right? So you don't have anything.
So would you say we're still seeking for that culture, or we're still seeking for that very thing we lost? So maybe we don't know that it's the culture that we're seeking.
That's the point. First, you have to know what you've lost in order to look for it.
Exactly.
You need to know. So, I'm a student. I'm a root cause. I always, even when something happens to me personally, I have to look for the root cause. I try hard not to go for the emotional response, which has been fed into me. I'll say, wait, and it can take me years to look for it. I will look for it, because if you don't, it's bound to repeat itself. Right? And your question is, then what do we do? I know you're going to ask that. Well, I'm never in a rush for solution. I think the diagnosis is 50% the solution. There must be a conversation. There got to be a conversation. But the question is, who is going to bail the cat? Black Americans do not have a leader. It depends on where you go. They said a different leader. Al Sharpton's theory or doctrine is different from Jesse Jackson's doctrine, different from Martin Luther King. Every pocket has its own thought leader, and so you don't have any central theme.
Yeah,
you don't.
Yeah. Well, I think, wouldn't you say like most people would consider that Obama was a leader of the black people?
Political leader?
To some degree.
Well, that's political leader. He's a political leader of the Democratic Party, which is a white party.
Okay. So when you're saying the black people don't have a leader, so in what capacity are you talking about? If it's not in any
the most
realm.
important one is a social. See, the black problem cannot be solved with political legislations and stuff. It's a social problem, not a political problem. And now they're trying to solve their social problems with politics. That's why they go out and they have organizations like Michelle Obama get out the vote.
Right.
Get out the vote for what? What? And that's why when Obama left office, he went on the Breakfast Club, and the question they asked him is, you didn't do anything for black people. And then he sat there for 15 or so minutes trying to justify. And I'm thinking, wasted education. You will think this man, because you didn't ask for anything.
Yeah.
That's why I couldn't do anything. Then Kamala Harris comes on. The Breakfast Club asked her the same question. And she said, hey, listen, I'm not going to tell you that there's any particular thing I would do for black people.
Yeah.
And they held that against her. Well, they asked the question, remember when Biden went on the Breakfast Club, and I did an episode on it. And when he was about to leave, Charlemagne said, hey, and you have to come back. And he goes, well, if you haven't made your mind to vote for me, then you ain't black. Okay? And then Charlemagne's response was, hey, listen, I'm just here asking for something for my people. Something, he said.
Yeah.
He doesn't even have what he's asking.
Yeah.
Now, the problem we are discussing here, Biden can fix it. The Democratic Party can fix it. The Republicans can fix it.
No.
A politician can fix it. And that's why I had that conversation with Montel Williams.
Right.
But I told him, blacks are doomed in this country, doomed forever.
Yeah.
If they continue voting and waiting on elections to solve their problem, because their problem is not a political problem, it's a social problem.
Yeah.
Okay, I was asked to play 15 minutes of that. I did. I gotta respect when someone takes the time to pose the topic for Shoot the Breeze that, you know, I played the entirety of what they wanted us to speak to. The Shoot the Breeze topic number 4 says, do we devalue marriage because of our historical, linguistic, and cultural ruptures, as argued by Zanu? Quite a few comments in the chat. I can tell you guys might not like Zanu, but I got a piece of bad news for y'all about Zanu a little bit later. Let me start with Brother Anthony. Anthony, what are your thoughts on what Zanu had to say?
Hey, you know what, Coco? I was enjoying it, man. I was enjoying the conversation, man. It was very interesting. You know what I'm saying? But I think what I was thinking, I think he used a small sample size too, though, man. And I don't think it was let me see. Because when he was talking about the marriage thing, I was thinking, I think we had to put it in the context of being in a country where the dominant culture is European. Okay, you know, we are being an ethnic minority, being what the dominant culture is European and everything. Let's just say it like that. Because like at the same time, some of the points he was making, at the same time, you could go to I could go to Haiti, I could go to Jamaica, I could go to other parts of the diaspora, and among the Suriname, among those African people, the maroon people populations there, and you don't see that same kind of thing. Because remember, he said it was just not among Africans in America. No, he was covering other parts of the black world too. You know, and then when I thought about it, I say, no, you know, I don't see that there among other groups of people where we were the dominant population, or where we were in our own communities and stuff like that. So I think a lot of it has to do with the pressure of being in this kind of society, in a society, remember, that's not only was a society where, you know, where you went through all these things through enslavement and brutalization and dehumanization and all that stuff, but that even after all of that was officially over, I mean, a society that's still tremendously anti-black, even today. You know what I'm saying? I mean, hell, anti-blackness is pervasive. It right now, it's to the point where now we don't have to hear it from them, we hear it from our damn self. You know what I'm saying? We talking to anti-black shit. So I think all of that has to be factored in. And I don't know, man. I think I need to. What is his name, Cole? Can you write it down in the private chat so I can get the name? Because I want to check him out. I think I've seen him before. I've seen him talking on something else on some reels on IG, but I had to check him out though again. Because I think this was the brother who was saying about the black people not having culture and stuff. But yeah, I need to check him out though, man. You know, he got some interesting points, man. You know, I mean, I can see the validity in some of what he's saying, but I don't think he sees the whole picture though. You know what I mean? And he didn't, you know, he don't see the whole picture. I mean, he going off a small sample size though, man. But anyway, man, write his name down for me so I can check it out, man, so I can look into him.
I got you. Yeah, he is the guy who was talking about African Americans don't have culture. More on that later. With that said, let's hear from Real Black Gentleman. RBG, what say you?
I mean, I think he has some decent points. I kind of got zoned out for a minute, and then I kind of caught like the last bit of it. But I mean, as far as he is, you know, he was saying something about, you know, we used to be in villages and we're close together, and then, you know, you had the nation, then, you know, all of a sudden we were put into neighborhoods. I don't think that was necessarily like, you know, part of it is the fact that, you know, people, how do I say, when you have the state and the state starts to guarantee stuff, it's different than a collection of people who under just natural agreement, you know, insures for each other. To, you know what I'm saying? It's a lot different than that. With trades and you know what I'm saying, you know, trade guilds and all that. It's different. How do I say it? I'm not gonna. I know you said some things I might not agree with, but I haven't really heard of this guy before. I don't know, maybe 2 weeks ago. All of a sudden, I've seen people talking about him, so I don't even know his background. Marriage is important. I think that anything that would, you know, hold it together is important. I was just talking about throwing wild seeds. I think he's kind of on the same drift to that. Once you have just people just, well, part of it has to do with a sense of wealth. And again, you can't say, you know, do the right thing, have good morals if people don't have the means to do so. And that becomes a kind of a touchy situation with a lot of cultures, making sure that the younger people actually have enough to start families and not necessarily like kicking them out at 18. Because if you might have a sense of law where, okay, you know, depending on, you know, people's just what's the word I want to say? Their laxness about parenting, you know, at some point they might just be willing to let the kids go. And where the kids are going to go, they're going to go out, or they're going to hustle in the streets, make some money, find an apartment in one of these neighborhoods, you know, and hook up with some with you know what I'm saying, shorty, you know what I'm saying, see something, you know what I'm saying, like, and get close, and you know, babies, and then, you know, are they married? So yes, it is important. I mean, that's everywhere. You can't necessarily scapegoat the language itself, because language is a tool. I speak English. You know, this is not a language. This is a Mzungu language. You know what I'm saying? This is not anything from the mother. There's no mother tongue here. But I'm good at it, and I use it in this world to get what I need. And Lord knows, if I really need to understand something, you know what I'm saying, in a more esoteric way, I suppose, a less urgent way for me. I mean, I can't write and speak Igbo on a job application on my resume and necessarily get unless I find someone who knows and speaks Igbo. You see what I'm getting? And nothing is necessarily impossible. It's just It's just incredibly improbable for it to be practical. So I know what he's getting at. So I'm not gonna down him for what his message is right here. I'm gonna pass the mic.
Appreciate that, RBG. Let me go to Black Steel. Black Steel, what are your thoughts?
Hold on. This nigga said the reason black people have high divorce rates is because we don't like each other. Now, I done heard some dumbass shit in my life, but this is pretty high up there, right? So let's be real, right? Black Americans, especially, black people live in a world where we have an extra level of stress put on us just because of our skin color, right? Almost 50% of marriages in the West end in divorce. Not talking about black people, man, but just marriages in general. 50%. We don't say white people don't like each other with a 50% divorce rate, but black people, we just don't like each other. There's no analysis of any socioeconomic factors, anything like that. Oh, them niggas just don't like each other. This is what passes for scholarship in our community. This is stuff that pisses me off because he's literally talking about nothing. He's talking about who's our leader, all the other bullshit. It's bullshit. Black people are poor, right? And that's the reality. Black people are poor. People who tend to be poor tend to have higher divorce rates and lower marriage rates. That's the same across race. This is not something that is brain surgery, right? There was a point within our history, black people's history, where we had higher marriage rates than white people did. But the truth is, marriage rates across the world, especially across the Western world, have declined on a high level. So what do you say to that, sir? Do white people hate each other because they have high divorce rates? It's so stupid when you say it. It makes no sense. Because if I'm divorcing you, you goddamn right I don't like you. I'm divorcing you. But to say as a culture we don't like each other, and then he's talking about who our leader and our cultural leaders. When have we ever had one singular leader? We've never had a singular. This is the leader of the white people. This is the leader of the black people. I don't know if anybody remembers that episode of Family Guy where Peter Griffin is wearing that sash, calling himself king of the black people. Like, what, is that what we're looking for? We're looking for somebody to put on a crown and say, I'm the leader of the black people, right? We live in a capitalistic society where our value is measured by our wealth, right? And what we're able to produce. And then you have a people who are on the bottom of that socioeconomic system, oppressed, locked out of wealth, and then we're wondering why their marriages don't work. Oh, they don't like each other. What the fuck? What are we what are we talking about right now? This dude, I cannot take this dude seriously. And he's sitting there on the couch and smiling and shit. Man, get the fuck out of here, man. I can't. We don't like each other. No, that's not, and we should stop. And that's not the point. Black people, we all we got, man. I'm sorry. There's no escape valve. You know, I hear a lot of people talking about marrying outside your race and this and that. Man, that's not a solution. There's no large group of people outside our race who are gonna sit up here and marry us and love us. We all we got. If black people don't love each other, then nobody else is gonna love us. So this idea that people aren't marrying or whatever is bullshit, first of all. But just the whole premise that we just don't like each other. No, it's not those liking each other. Black people are oppressed, okay? And we are under a great deal of stress and scrutiny in this society. They just recently Just recently in the United States, right? When Trump was reshuffling all the government agencies, 300,000 jobs were lost made by Black women. Imagine the stress that's going to put on some people's families, right? They lost their jobs, they lost their health care. Now you got stressed people who have to worry about how their housing, things like that. All of this is happening right now. But yet you have this all this unemployment and other social factors. Oh, they just don't like each other. What the fuck? Huh? This is almost like a Thomas Sowell level analogy of bullshit. So I done said my piece. I'm just, ugh, I can't. I'm gonna go ahead and finish my food. I'll let somebody else speak. Thanks.
All right. I knew Black Steel was going to bring it. You all did so far, but I really want to hear what our most recent panelist has to say about it. Our sister Cheryl. Cheryl, how are you this week?
Hello, can I be heard?
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, hey, how y'all doing?
Good. Thanks for coming
So,
through.
yeah, no problem. This guy, okay, this guy's just, first of all, he's all over the place. Like, I can't, because first he said he was talking about marriages and Black Americans not valuing marriage. Then he said we have the highest divorce rate. And we like, I just want to know because he's saying a lot. He's saying we have we devalue marriage. That's what it was. So is it that we devalue marriage and we don't get married at all? Or is it that we get the most divorces? Or is it both? And what is he comparing that to? What's the comparative analysis? Like he's just saying he's spoken like a person who just immigrated to America who has no historical context. And a lot of people tend to do that. A lot of first generation like immigrants tend to do that when they don't have a historical context. That's just like if you drop me off in the middle of Mali and I see some people like I don't know, like just really, really, really dirt poor. And I just think that, oh well, these people, this small group of people is dirt poor, so that means they all must, they must be a certain way. It's so like half-assed on his part, and being as old as he is, he should know better than that. And you would think, people with that are given the platform that he's given would know better, but they don't. They're like children. He's a child. He what he's trying to say, and I think someone said it in the chat. He's trying to um he's trying to say, this is me just being nice, but I think he's trying to say that the West has an impact on how we view marriages. And someone did say that in the chat, and how we value things. And then he said, well, we're experiencing it in Africa too. But you just said that divorce rates are higher among Black Americans. So are they higher among Black Americans, or is it like the same across continents? Like, is it the same on the continent? Like, it's a little confusing when he's talking, but I don't even think he knows what he's talking about. And that's what I think. A lot of people may get offended, but I truly don't think he knows I don't think he knows what he's talking about. Then he said something about Obama, and like, I'm not sure if he was quoting somebody or something, but he said, well, Obama didn't do anything for us because we didn't ask. Like, what? What is he talking about? Like, I just can't, because I see so many people like this, and I'm just like, poor baby, y'all just don't know nothing. Like, I can't even get upset anymore. I used to get reactionary, but these type of people don't read. They don't study anything. They just go to a country and they just see what they see. So I'm gonna end it there.
I appreciate that. Does anyone have any last thoughts on this prompt?
I always remember what Kwame Ture says. He says, when you make an analysis and you leave out the oppressor, you will always come to an incorrect analysis because you will blame the oppressed for all their problems. That's what he's doing, basically. He's basically making analysis without the oppressor. And we got to do better, man. It's 2025.
Appreciate that, Black Steel. I'm guessing that from everything I see in the chat and on the panel, I'm guessing that you guys don't particularly like Frank Zanu. But just bear with me. We have one last topic for tonight. That'll be Shoot the Breeze topic number 5. Shoot the Breeze topic number 5 says, I, the person who posted this, I agree and disagree with this. This is in reference to African American culture. So this takes us to TikTok. 2.5 or 2 3/4 of a minute. Let's watch it. Let's discuss it.
They have no culture. African Americans in this country are the only groups. They have no culture. It depends on who you meet, where you meet them.
But currently, there's not an African American culture.
No.
Yes, there is.
What is it? Name 2 value systems in the African American culture.
Value system?
Yes. Name 2 taboos in the African American culture system. Name 2 traditions, by the way, in the African American culture system. There is no value for freedom if you don't understand what it is. The concept of free. You have to have a foundation on which it would balance when you ask for it. Civil rights, they give it to you. You have no culture. Nancy, you've been here, born here. Why would you be surprised if I say African Americans don't have a culture?
Okay, I don't know what happened there. Give me 1 second. I'm having trouble playing this video. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I could fix this behind the scene. But in the chat,
I'm kind of glad it kind of broke for you, though. Real talk. I'm kind of glad it broke because I couldn't stand to use that nigga no more. Good God.
So Cheryl says, jumping the broom is a part of African American culture. RBG, I think, said hip hop. Man, this thing is not playing. But basically, because I see in the video, and I think a few of you in the chat referenced it, he's basically saying African Americans don't have a culture. What are the norms? What are the taboos? And she's Haitian American. The interview was Haitian American. So to be quite fair, she might not have been the best person to ask. But those were the types of things he would have asked her later on in that video. What are your taboos? What are your norms? And she tried to, she said hip hop, but she didn't really stand on it. And he kind of got on her butt. I can't believe that video stopped working like that. But in any event, we'll push on. So those are some of the things that would have come up in that conversation. I will say this, though. You might not like him. And one of the things you probably don't like about him, some of these older African men, and when I say African men, I'm not talking continental. I'm talking just black men, period. Some older black men speak in a very simplistic way that doesn't expound on the thought very well. And that can be problematic. There was a professor at the college that I went to. I wasn't in his class, but someone who I was friends with was in his class. And he made a statement like, Bahamians have no culture, and that shit really bothered me. And I let him know that I heard about that shit and it bothered me. And he kind of retracted it, but I'm very careful about telling the people they don't have a culture. What this guy Frank might be saying is you might not have a unified culture in America. And I'll use the example of W.E.B. Du Bois. I think it was John Henry Clark who mentioned it, but it was mentioned that when he did his dissertation for his PhD, his thesis was on the Philadelphia Negro. And I know Cheryl will be familiar with the Philadelphia Negro, but his thesis was on the Philadelphia Negro. And the idea was that the Philadelphia Negro, so to speak, was so different from other Negroes at the time that it was dissertation worthy. So I don't know if this gentleman, Frank, if that's what he's kind of getting to, that because, down south is one thing, out west is another thing, the East Coast is another thing. Maybe that's what he's getting at. Like, what's the cultural thing that binds everyone? And just to mention, hip hop was created just over 50 years ago. So it's kind of hard to say, well, hip hop is the culture, and different groups of people participated in that creation. So I will try to give him the benefit of the doubt that he's speaking in that old man, Caribbean, old man, African, maybe old man, American thing. But he's simplifying it just a bit too much. And you should never really tell people they don't have a culture. So with that said, I just try to set the table there. We still have a few of you with us. I'm going to start with Real Black Gentleman on this one. Real Black Gentleman, what say you to what the brother Frank was talking about?
Well, I wish he didn't get cut off, because I mean, just to say that, he was just trying to with the gotcha, trying to say something that might have a meaningful response, but try to forward retreat to other points without getting the main point. It's like, I'm an African American. I think it's very insulting for him to say that African Americans don't have culture. Just full stop. There's no way you can sit here and say that. Jazz music is there's so much. It goes without saying. I don't know if he thinks that culture is a will to power, like Marimba and E would say. He said that would be the Asili. That, what I'm saying, because our Asili is not the same as the Asili that is the dominant one, that it basically does not exist. I think he might be getting his terms mixed up. But to say that we have no culture, but I don't think he got it mixed up, because he made the whole point of saying that, name taboos and, things that, even though he's saying it from, I guess, the other person wasn't American. It's like, I wouldn't say the same thing to a Jamaican or to a Haitian or to a Bahamian, to any African. I wouldn't say that to Black people, that they don't have a culture. The fact that they trade and craft is a culture. Your work can be a culture. How you do your work in a way that has an essentialness to it, and that flourishes can be added onto it. It's like, if you can make a vase, but you do things to the vase that have a practical meaning, let's say, and then that practical thing is just elaboratized. I don't know, like making a hook on a vase and then making that hook fancy. That's culture. And then all of a sudden, it might not have a hook, but there's ways that things progress over time. Call and response. That is genuinely Black. People try to fake the call and response, but the call and response is a Black thing. Yeah, he's out of pocket. He's he's what you know what I'm saying. He's out of pocket, man. I can't go to wherever his land is and say that, nor that I want to at all, because I will be spending too much time soaking up the culture and learning something new, you know, and trying to, you know, trying to not be bored and just trying to, you know, walk free and stuff. But like, yeah, I don't have anything else to say. He's out of pocket, man. I mean, just yes, he's doing too much, man. He's doing too much.
Let me try one more time at this. Let me see if I can get it on YouTube, but it's probably not the whole thing that we would have seen before, but I'll try it. See. Here we go.
In this country are the only groups, they have no culture. It depends on who you meet, where you meet them.
But currently there's not an African American culture?
No.
Yes, there is.
What is it? Name 2 value systems in the African American culture.
Value system?
Yes. Name 2 taboos in the African American culture system. Name 2 traditions, by the way, in the African American culture system. There is no value for freedom if you don't understand what it is. The concept of free. You have to have a foundation on which it would balance when you ask for it. Civil right, they give it to you. You have no culture. Nancy, you've been here, born here. Why would you be surprised if I say African Americans don't have a culture? What, twerking? So anything
but I feel like African American culture has definitely
you say
mainstream.
No, you say the word, the African American culture. What is it? Okay,
fine. Like hip hop, not hip hop. I mean, I don't want to. Yes, I feel like
you haven't thought about it. It's fine. Don't make things up.
I'm not making it up.
Okay,
I feel like
then educate me. You feel, you should know. You were born and raised here.
Yes, but I have a.
Are you African American?
I'm Haitian American.
That's correct. Do you see why you were being specific with that? Because anybody who encounters you already knows you before. If they know you are Haitian, at least 2 things comes to their mind.
What is that?
If they've been to Haiti, they can look at work ethics and they say, yes, Haitians, I know them. Service industry, they know where they do well. Food, they can say yes. And even language, Creole.
Right.
And they can say, oh, I love Haitians. Mm-hmm. Because they saw the culture in abstract before they encountered you. Mm-hmm. So people go over the bridge of your culture, your tradition, your customs, and that helps them to know how to
address it.
Exactly. I'm saying to you, any people who ask for these things, which are abstract, freedom, for example, independence, for example, and civil right, for example, voting right, for example, you must have a foundation on which these things are going to balance. Because the people there have to uniformly agree with consensus. This is our way of life. The do's and the don'ts involved in our culture. Even if you have to create an artificial culture.
Is that why the civil rights movement is considered dead?
It's dead and useless. They got it, but they could not balance it on any foundation.
Yeah, again,
African Americans in this country are the only groups.
I think that kind of solidified my thinking that he sounds dumb. He sounds crazy because he's not explaining what I think he's trying to get at. So, like, you know, someone said in the chat, food and language, but the Southerner doesn't say the same things as the Northerner. Doesn't eat all the same foods. Like, if he was trying to say there is not and even then I don't know if he'll be correct, but if he was trying to say there's not a cohesive thing, I could more understand that. But again, even that might not be correct. I think he's trying to say something without even knowing how to say it. That's all I could say. But I could be wrong. You guys tell me. Who did I talk to? I talked to Real Black Gentleman. Let me talk to Black Steel next. Black Steel would say.
Whoo boy. Koku, you owe me for this. Listen to this dude twice in a row. I'm dying on the inside. All right, so culture from the Wikipedia, right? Culture is a concept that encompasses the social behavior, institutions, and norms found in human societies, as well as the knowledge, beliefs, arts, laws, customs, capabilities, attitudes, and habits of the individuals within these groups. Okay, so I'm Black American. My great great grandfather was a slave in South Carolina, right? Like I'm going way back. So there are many aspects to Black American culture, right? And again, it's also regionalisms as well. A Black person in New York or or in the Northeast might not have the same ideas of culture. Now, one thing within our African American culture that has been taught is respect to elders, right? You respect your elders. That is something that is taught from a young age. You respect your elders, respect your mother, respect your father, so on and so forth, right? That is something that has really been brought into our culture. Another thing is the church, right? So many African, good or bad, if you go to church, there's certain songs that we sing in church. Even now, I can remember hearing my grandmother sing, "He's a battle axe," and I know what to say. If he's a battle axe in the time of a battle. If you know, we know because that's our culture, right? The call and response, real Black gentleman mentioned before, right? There's certain songs, cultural norms that we have within Black people. Certain foods that we eat on New Year's Day. You have black eyed peas and collard greens. That's something that we have. And why? And that goes back to taboos about we have. You don't wash your clothes on New Year's Day because you're gonna wash your blessings out. That's a cultural taboo. All right. That means we have culture. He's talking about civil rights and everything else like that. Civil rights movement is not a cultural thing. That was a movement for Black people to have access to the rights that we were entitled to as American citizens. So I don't know who this dude is, but to say Black people, Black Americans don't have culture is ahistorical. Literally, the musical foundation of the United States is based off of Black people, right? Going all the way back to jazz, to blues, to ragtime, okay? You could even say, every musical creation, rock and roll, was created off of Black people. Poetry, you have Langston Hughes poetry, you have plays by Lorraine Hansberry and all the other people who contribute to the artistic legacy of African Americans. And to say we don't have culture, it just says more about you than about African Americans. But we have plenty of culture, right? I'm older, one thing about young people, right? If you get to a certain age, right, they recognize you as an uncle or auntie, right? Some of my students, they call me Unc, and that's a part of our culture because throughout African American history, right, we were oftentimes sold away from our loved ones, right? Sometimes you could be sold away, and we would create new families. We called it fictitious kin, but it was a way for us to recreate those social bonds that we may have lost through our enslavement. That's a cultural adaptation to oppression. So again, this dude doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm kind of mad he's being platformed, but I kind of understand it though, right? You put a black face out there and you have this black face saying the same stuff the white people say as a way to kind of digest it a little bit better. So it's sad, but it's not unexpected. So I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Yes, sir. I saw RBG in the chat say, "Not snitching on your peoples and them." That's really an Italian gangster thing, though. That was an Italian thing. There was a time when Black folks really was on that Italian tip, and they were naming like rappers. At one time, was calling themselves Luciano and all kind of shit like that. So Just point that out. With that said, let me hear from Brother Anthony on this one. Anthony would say.
Yeah. Okay. All right now. Yeah, that's B. I heard. I'm gonna take a different position than everybody, man. What I don't know if it's different, but just another side of the coin. I'm gonna look at it this way. All right. Let me try. I've been trying to get this lined up right, man, because I was listening to everybody else, and I don't want to repeat the same thing. But okay. All right. Now this brother, and he is our brother. He's our brother. Okay. This brother, his knowledge of African people in this country probably come through the media. We got to look at that for a minute. His knowledge doesn't come from being among African people in this country, being on the ground, being in the southern United States, where the real culture of African American people comes from. Like the sister was saying, hip hop and the musical genres and stuff like that. Okay, yeah, that's part of some things that came out of our culture. But hip hop is not our culture. Hip hop is not culture to me. I mean, I would put that more like a subculture or a genre of culture or something. But like I said, this brother, his knowledge of African culture in this country probably comes through the media. Looking at television. You know what I'm saying? Because what all the things he was talking about, how they don't respect this and that and that. That sounds like the kind of conversation that, you might hear some brothers and sisters from the continent or from the other parts of the diaspora outside of America say about black people in America. And it goes both ways. We say shit about our people too on the other side. But I'm saying, all these words like they don't work hard or, or they lazy, or whatever, all of the things that you might hear some of these colonized Negro men say on both sides. Like I say, so their knowledge comes from television, from the media, just like our knowledge about our people on the continent and about in the Caribbean and places come from the same thing. They're from the media. Oh man, I heard them Haitians crazy. Them Jamaicans crazy. Whatever. Them Nigerians, them Liberians, they crazy. We get all that misinformation from the media instead of learning from each other. Okay, that being said, Coco, I seen this brother who was talking about, he was the same kind of brother, but he was from the Caribbean. And I can't remember whether he was from Jamaica or Haiti. And it made me think about something you said. And he was saying the same kind of stuff about Bahamians that y'all didn't have no culture. As a matter of fact, not only that, you know what he said? He said that y'all not even real Caribbeans. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, well, man, but technically, they ain't in the Caribbean. So I mean, this kind of madness, this kind of misinformation, this miseducation among us, among our people, it goes both ways. From all of us. Now, if he was to really learn about what black culture, what African culture is in America, he would have to come to the southern United States to see the culture. And then, like you said, black people in New York or in the Midwest or California. Well, remember, those black people came from the southern United States. They came from there. And they carry things like they food. You can go to Harlem and still get soul food. You know what I'm saying? You can go to a church in Harlem and still see people getting in the spirit when the music playing, you know what I'm saying? And seeing people shouting. You know what I'm saying? You can still see that. All of that's part of our African culture that came from the South. And that culture that came from the South came from Africa. Now see, this brother, I think in his mind, he's saying, okay, now you left Africa as Yoruba, as Fawn, as Akan, and as these different ethnic groups. You went over here, you lost your language, or they took your language, they took your custom, they took your drum, they took your music, and he look at it now, you don't have none of that. And I think when he see us now, and we're not with that, what we had when we was in Africa, he's saying that's why he's saying we don't have culture. Because we don't have our Yoruba culture. We don't have our Akan culture. We don't have our Bakongo culture. You know what I'm saying? I think that's what he's saying in its purest form. And he look at it and say, well, where's the culture? Where's your taboos? Where's all of the stuff like this here? But like I said, it comes from a lack of knowledge. No, he not knowing what the culture is. Because like Black Steel talked about, the culture encompasses a lot of things. You know, it don't just be, it's not just one thing, it's several things. And you can't separate the spirituality part from the culture. And like one of the biggest things is like I grew up, I don't know if Black Steel did, he probably heard of it. I know Bakari probably heard of being from Mississippi and me being from Louisiana. But I know when I was a young guy, we used to pass by houses and see these, and pass by yards and see these trees with these blue bottles on them. And I wonder, what is those blue bottles? You know, so my grandfather, grandparents, and other older people told me what that is. You know what I'm saying? And that was a way of capturing evil spirits. And this was something that went back to West Africa and Central Africa. You know what I'm saying? Now, see, he don't know that. He don't know that. I think I heard Sister Cheryl saying something about the broom. You know, and I heard somebody talking about the black eyed peas, about the, you know, and the collard greens. Well, you know, that's something that we as African people in America do, but that goes back to the Yoruba people of West Africa who ate, they called them cow peas, black eyed peas, and they ate them for good fortune. We eat them for good luck on New Year's. No, we have a tradition where we sweep out the house and we sweep everything to the front and out the front door, like sweeping out the bad shit. No, all of these are things that go back to the Congo, into West Africa. But see, he don't know that because he hasn't taken the time to study that. Or he's talking to a young lady right there. I think she's a Haitian sister. You know, she probably is not in depth about about the culture. You know, or know as much. You know, so it's easy for him to like catch her like a deer in the head, like, you know, and she like wanting well, damn, what do I say now? Hip hop. You know what I'm saying? But it comes from a lack of information, a lack of education, a lack of information. It's the same thing, like, you know, remember that prom we had where they had the brother, here, the African American brother, the preacher, saying, Africans, y'all got to do better. Y'all ain't built shit. Y'all ain't built nothing over story tall. You know what I'm saying? And the sister talking about y'all worshiping trees and all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? A lack of information. Now, what if he'd have heard that shit? You know what I'm saying? Them telling him that you Africans ain't got no culture, that you ain't never built nothing. Well, I'm saying because it's that media thing. We don't take time to learn from each other. You know what I'm saying? To learn what the culture is. You know, you got to learn. You can't just walk up and just see the people like Sister Shell said, you know, you just dropped off in the middle of Mali somewhere and seen some poor people, whatever, then form an opinion off of that and not knowing the history, not putting things in context. But that's why I said I wouldn't go jump on the brother because I'm going to let him, I got to put it in context. I would sit back and observe and listen to what he say and see where it's coming from. And I seen where it's coming from immediately. It's because he don't know. No, he don't know the culture. You know what? Half of us don't know our own culture. You know what I'm saying? Us on this panel, we know things. But I mean, a lot of us don't know our culture. Some of the stuff I say, or Black Steel say, we talking about the church songs, you know what I'm saying? Probably they ain't never heard of that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? You remember Koku, we did the ring shot videos and stuff. A lot of our people forgot about that kind of, our young people, you know, because it's been such a long time since we been really into our culture like that. You know, with this, with media and all this new wave, being flooded with all this new wave bullshit. No, that's really, that helps destroy culture. But yeah, man, it's just because he don't know. And I ain't saying nobody give him a pass, but I mean, I had to look at it and say, no, I'm not gonna get to the emotional part for me. I ain't talking about nobody else. But I'm just saying, and I have to understand that this brother looking at things through a colonized mind. You know what I'm saying? Just the same way as we do it. Now, if it had been a white man saying that, we'd have been saying, you know what? You know, we'd have had, well, you know, he don't know nobody. You don't know what he's talking about. He ain't never studied nothing. He don't know nothing. Well, you know, that brother haven't neither. And the fact is, most African brothers and sisters who come here, they didn't come over here to study African people's culture over here. They came to get a job, to make a living, to provide for their families, whatever. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, they got fed media bullshit about us, and we got the same thing about them. But we didn't ever just sit down to learn and talk to each other. Now, you know, you got some of us do. You know, like there was a brother, what's his name? He wrote a book. I got a book called Black Nationalism. Brother from Nigeria. His name escaping me now. Black Steel might know him. but he was a friend with Dr. Clark. But he's from Nigeria, and he wrote a book called Black Nationalism, where he was studying about the Nation of Islam and movements, in America. No, he actually wrote a whole book about us. And so what I'm saying is the study, the knowledge has to be passed on, the studying has to be done, the education has to be passed on. Well, we could get rid of that kind of mindset. We could get that kind of mindset out of our people from their side and from our side. And I'll leave it right there, man.
I really appreciate that, Anthony. And I think between you and what the matron is saying, which I have up on the screen. By the way, shout out to the matron. Make sure you guys are checking out her weekly readings, man. Don't leave her hanging without checking out those weekly readings. But the matron says he is looking at other people groups and comparing what he sees to African people. This is a non-starter, as we have a unique experience unlike other people groups. We have diverse cultures. And that's kind of what I was getting at. Again, W.E. Du Bois doesn't write about the Philadelphia black man, or Negro as he would call them in his day, unless there was something different about them. And that's regardless to whether their people migrated from the South. There was something different, like Chicago. Chicago has all these problems. I was just talking to Brother Bakari about that during the week. All these problems. Most of the people from Chicago are from the South somewhere. But there's something different going on. And therefore, there isn't a culture, but there's a diverse culture. I don't think, if he had said that, I wouldn't have had a problem with what he was talking about. Acknowledge that there's a diversity of culture. The West Coast, remember those old videos we watched where those black folks in California didn't want the Southern black folks to come? Remember what they said? It's a different culture. You see what I'm saying? It's a different culture. They didn't want the Southern black, and those people were probably from the South themselves originally. And I think the point I'm trying to make ultimately is, like, we gotta speak with nuance, man. Anthony mentions whoever it was who was trying to diss or knock the Bahamas, but the Bahamas is 700 islands and keys. We have an underlying unifying culture, but you know what? There is some little differences between someone from Nassau, like me, the capital, versus someone from Exuma. There is slight differences. So you would have to say in that context, there's somewhat of a diversity or diverse culture going on there because we're separated by islands, right? But that's the real point. I mean, that's not the point of the post, I'm sure, or who posted it. But the thing I would like us to decide doing is really speaking with proper nuance when we talk about each other. We tend to talk in these blanketed statements, and that doesn't help us. Sister Cheryl, did I hear from you?
No. So he said a couple of things that I thought were interesting. And I wasn't really paying attention to it, but he said something about civil rights. Civil rights was the foundation. I'm paraphrasing, but civil rights was the foundation of Black Americans. And then once we got away from that, that's when the culture, that's when we started not having a culture. And then he said that, well, you mentioned the thing about Black people in Philly are very different. And I think I know what he's driving at. I could be wrong, but I kind of get the same thing. Like when I talk to people like in the South, it's like when they hear me talk or when they hear the type of things I talk about, they kind of get a little like uneasy. And I'm not saying all people in Philly are like this, but people in Philly are very direct. They're very straightforward. They're not about civil rights. They're not really about like, oh, let me go hold this white person's hand. They're not really about like cheesing in front of white people. Like you are always going to have those group of people that's like that. But if you talk to a regular dude on the street in West Philly, he's not going to be like, oh yeah, civil rights. We are all human and we all got to be together. They're not really like that. They're not hard on it like that. So maybe I think this guy is a stark integrationist, and I think I'm willing to bet it's either one of the two. He either got a white wife or a non-black wife, or he hang around a lot of white people. And also, I think, I think somebody did say this in the chat, but I think this interview is staged, definitely, because even the Haitian sister, she looking like she want to say a lot of stuff, like to him. When he's saying like, oh, black Americans don't have no culture, and she just sitting like, they're kind of like mainstream. Like, what do you mean? And that indicates to me that this guy, like most people his age, they're not really into social media like that. So that's why I say it could be staged, but then again, I know a lot of people his age that's from his background that sound like that. So more to the thing about Philly, I just see that correlation between, because like when you talk about civil rights down here in the South, people are like, yeah, civil rights, that's what Martin Luther King fought for. Da 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 da. When you go up north, it's you see some of it, you see some of that, but not really. Not really. So I think maybe that's what he's getting at, and I think people in Philly make him feel a little uneasy. And I'll end it there.
I appreciate that, Cheryl. Afro Native World, shout out to him in the chat. He says, is he alluding to there isn't a national African, quote unquote, American culture? And that's what I'm getting at. I think that's what he's trying to say, but he's going about it a real awful way. With that said, man, Jose has been waiting for a while here. Jose, how are you this week?
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I can hear you. What's going on?
I'm okay. I'm okay. I was listening. I just got out of bed. And I was smoking a spliff, so I missed a part. But I wanna share some thoughts about the not having a culture. So I'm into this FBA. I don't even want to call it discussion, but so sometimes I partake in trolling FBA, and so this subject is sometimes this is sometimes the subject, and I've thought a lot of it. If you look at hip hop alone, I have difficulties calling that a culture. Funk alone, I have difficulties calling that a culture. Why? Because it's not passed on to the next generation. Blues, where are the black blues bands and talents? You don't see black kids playing instruments anymore. You don't see black kids dominating breakdance. You don't see in the Netherlands, you don't see black kids dominating. Well, yeah, there's a lot of in the Dutch hip hop scene. There's a lot of black youngsters. But do you understand what I'm saying? So that's when you zoom in. But if you zoom out, you definitely do see a culture, a distinct culture, a distinct Black American culture. In like in the Caribbean, you have a few. You have the flavors that fall the reggae family. So you have raga, and you have whatever toasting, and that's clearly a distinct culture, right? Then you have the salsa from Cuba and the Spanish-ish branch. So and that's also a distinct culture. So what I'm trying to say is hip hop. I may have discovered hip hop in the Netherlands before African Americans from another city than New York discovered hip hop. Do you understand what I'm saying? But if you look at umbrella wise, if you look the umbrella is definitely an African American culture, and I wanna call all these names: hip hop, blues, jazz, disco, rock and roll. Maybe all of them are children of jazz. That's But anyway, if you zoom out and look at it umbrella wise, definitely there's a culture, but I thought the previous speaker had a point with the civil rights movement. So integration put the culture in other people's hands. So that's why now with anything that you come up with, the industry takes it as a trend and uses it to sell yet another lifestyle. So it's not really in your hands. But umbrella wise, if you look at it zoomed out, yes, there's definitely an African American culture, but I'm afraid you don't have the power over it anymore. Thanks.
That's good stuff, Jose. By the way, before you guys respond, Afro Native World has this question. He says, I didn't think regionalism was as bad here as other countries where cultures, even black ones, are divided by region. What say the African American folk on the panel? Are African Americans together regardless of region? So that's one question, but I like y'all to, if you have a response for Jose, I think Anthony may have some pushback to something maybe I or someone else said. So Anthony, you go ahead, but also touch on what Jose said and what Afro Native World said in the chat.
Okay, yeah, I think Jose was spot on, man. I like what he said. I pretty much basically agree with it. Okay, and my thing was it's okay. I said pushback. It's small pushback, not a hard pushback. It was to you, Coco. And what I was saying when you was talking about how the culture in different cities outside of the South, areas outside of the South, like in New York or Chicago or LA. Okay, what I would say is this right here. No, those Africans who went to New York, they have the same culture that we do. In Chicago and LA, they all have the same culture. We speak the same African American vernacular. We worship the same way. We eat the same food. Now, they may do it with a New York accent, or they may do it with a Midwest accent, with Chicago, or with a California accent. And like you was talking about the black people in Cali who didn't want those black Southern, those people from the South coming there. I don't think that was a cultural thing to me. I think that was an economic thing. Because remember, at that particular time when Africans were going to California in the 40s, 30s and 40s, this was when they had that the shipbuilding, the Navy industry, the military industry going on out there. And a lot of black people was getting jobs in those Navy yards. That's how a lot of black people came up. Black brothers had jobs in those Navy yards, in other related jobs. And what happened was those people had established themselves and they didn't want competition. You know what I'm saying? These Negroes coming from down there, it's only a few of us getting these jobs. Now we got to contend with these people coming up here. You know what I'm saying? I think it was more of an economic thing than anything, not a cultural thing, because those people ate the same damn food. They went to the same church. They worshiped the same way. They were the same people. Yeah, they was out there and they probably had throw a little twist to it, but it was the same thing. You know what I'm saying? I think it is like a uniform. It is an African American culture, but it's just like what Dr. Sheikh Anthony Diop said when he was talking about the cultural continuity in Africa. Yeah, you got Yoruba, you got Akan, you got Zulu, you got Bakongo, you got Xhosa, you got all different kinds of groups of people in Africa, and with different spiritual belief system and cultural belief system. But it's always a cultural continuity in it. They still related though, and you see a similarity in all of them, even though they might speak it with a Zulu accent or with a Xhosa accent or with a Yoruba or a Akan or a Bambara or Wollo, different accents. But you know what I'm saying? But it's still a similarity. There's strong similarities that you can tell that they come from the same tree. And I think it's just like Africans in this country and like all over the diaspora. You know, I mean, whether you in Haiti or Jamaica or the Bahamas, you know what I'm saying? They all got a little something that's similar. You know what I'm saying? They got Obi in Jamaica. I think they had Obi in Bahamas and in other parts of the Caribbean. You know what I'm saying? They got voodoo in Haiti and they got voodoo in other parts of the Caribbean. You know what I'm saying? We got different practices and way of doing things, but they all similar because they come from the same tree. So yeah, we have different accents. We might do it with a New York thing or with a Chicago thing, you know what I'm saying, or with an LA thing. But it's still, I think it's still, to me, it's the African American culture, just like it's the culture in Bahamas. You know, they may be different in Nassau than they is from the Eczema where you was talking about, or any other part of the Bahamas. You know, I'll leave it at that's all I wanted to say. It wasn't a hard pushback, just a little bit.
Yeah, my slight pushback to your pushback is the people in the video actually said it was culture. It could have been both because you're adding a whole other dimension historically that's not captured in that video, but in the video itself, they said it was a different culture.
Yeah, I think they was wrong though.
Okay, sure. Any other last thoughts on this prompt? All right. Well, before we exit, I want to thank Jose for joining us tonight too, by the way. But I will like to get shout outs from folks of anything positive in your black world, your neck of the woods, anything you saw in the news. Let's give some shout outs, some positive shout outs before we leave. Let me just go down the line. Black Steel, what would you like to shout out this week?
Let's see. What can I shout out? Not really too much of a shout out this week, you know. Hope everyone had a good week. I want to shout out the panel for doing a tremendous job. Very good topics tonight. So I'll shout that out. Thanks.
Appreciate your shout out to you for the speedy recovery, and you rejoined us this week. So I appreciate that. As always, I appreciate you, Black Steel. Real Black Gentleman, what would you like to shout out this week?
I'm kind of in the same boat. I'm trying to think, you know what I'm saying? Just I ain't trying to shout anyone out necessarily. I'm happy, you know what I'm saying, that I think people are I think people are, you know, black people are, we're I think we're getting over a lot of this stuff. I think the just the younger generation, I think the generational gap is closing in a way. Even though you might have these outliers, I think that slowly but surely a lot of these messages that we're trying that are, our ancestors, our scholars have been trying to tell us slowly but surely. I mean, it's uneven progress. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I think it's like, 4 steps, forward, 2 steps back. All right, 3 steps forward. All right, 2 steps back. All right. You know what I'm saying? It seems like there's a lot of, but you know what I'm saying? Overall, a lot of it is just, a sense of perception. You can only tend to pay attention to a couple things at a time, and then everything else gets lost. And you know what I'm saying? You can't see a setback, a temporary, detriment as precursor to everything else. You gotta always keep your focus on the big prize. So I was going to give a shout out for black people trying to keep your eye on the big prize.
Appreciate that, RBG. By the way, chat, this is your time to post your shout outs for something positive. I'll read them on the air before we leave. With that said, let me hear from Sister Cheryl. Cheryl, what's your shout out for the week?
I really don't know. I guess shout out to all of the Black people who think they're, I don't know, Native American, indigenous. Shout out to them. They, They just confused, you know. It's just if Africa start winning tomorrow and everything, you know, America fell and everything in Africa was great, they be talking about how they African now. So, you know, shout out to them. Shout out to their confusion. They'll come back one day.
But do we want them back? Though is the question. If you go over there, you got to stay over there. That's my thoughts on it.
You can't save everybody. Can't save everybody. So
Appreciate that, Sister Cheryl. Shout out to your husband too, by the way. Shout out, Jose. What would you like to shout out this week?
Shout out to the Trump administration and the European Commission for destroying their image and themselves. What I've been guessing for a long time is that they have no choice than to fight. As with bloodshed did they come to power, and with bloodshed will they defend their position. So I just hope it takes some time before they get there, time enough for our people to get out and watch the show from afar, how they destroy each other in yet another quote unquote world war. So yeah, shout out to these apes.
Oh, appreciate that, Jose. I didn't know you were done there. In the chat, Trigger Happy says, yes, he thinks captured another spy. So shout outs to that. War Drum says, shout out to the panel and Bitter Mad podcast. Shout out to the ancestors. Afro Native World says, shout out to the Dodos. I'm not sure what that would be. But shout out to them. He also says for the complimentary couples interview. Okay. The Adodos. Cheryl says that's me. I need Cheryl to explain that to me because I'm a little bit lost there.
yeah, that was we did a complimentary couples interview on abibi2me.com.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Drop me. You're on the Discord, right? Drop me a link and I'll check it out. I appreciate that. So Afro Native World, I hope you knew that was Sister Cheryl and her husband when you said that. I'm guessing you did. So appreciate that. Last but not least, Brother Anthony, what would you like to shout out this week?
Okay, man. Yeah, I just want to shout out everybody on the panel, man, and in the chat, man. You know, peace to everybody, and shout out to Buana, man. We miss you, Buana.
Yeah, shout out to Buana. I didn't hear from him. I hope all is well on his side. I'll have to remember to reach out to him. My shout outs to Brother Bakari, actually. Last Sunday, Brother Bakari reminded me, I'll try to be brief, but he reminded me that, you know, you gotta work on your mind. You have to work on the toughness of your spirit and mind. And he reminded me that I had begun researching the 1 meal a day diet. And I kind of fell off of it. I think that's when my father got sick. And I fell off of it for some months. And I went back this week and I finished doing my research and put together a meal plan. So shout out to him for that. Also, Bakari said something to me in that conversation that I want to share with you guys. The time for arguing ideas and ideologies, we gotta move past that now. We gotta start preparing ourselves. You know, we gotta become preppers now. Like how white folks talk about being preppers, we gotta be preppers now. We gotta talk about how to prepare for anything that could threaten our existence. And that's something I'd like to do a little bit more in the future here. I'll talk about it more in the future. But that idea of preparing your minds, preparing your bodies, preparing yourself in a tangible way. Make sure you have those tools of warfare and the mindset of warfare. We got to start doing that more. And I really appreciated him sharing that with me last week. There's something else he shared with me this week, and I can't think of it right now. But that I am thankful for. And he, in the chat, he says, shout out to the panel. Shout out to Coco for hosting every Saturday. Shout out to the chat. So I shout out to all of you who come here every week and have these discussions. I hope that you'll bring more people along in the coming weeks, coming years. But yeah, it's time for us to become preppers and really prepare ourselves for what's next. And so for that, I shout you all out, and I hope that you guys will join in that endeavor. But Bakari will be doing a live tomorrow. Make sure you check him out. He's talking about bug out bags and other things you need. Like Bakari said to me earlier this week, most people don't even know what should go in a bug out bag. That's important now. We got to talk about those things. We'll be back next week. It'll either be me or Jackadera. By the way, shout out to Jackadera. It'll be me or Jackadera. But in the meantime, man, thank you all for being who y'all are as African people. And I'll talk to you guys in the near future. Peace.
Thanks for listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast with your host, Koku. If you like what you just heard, we hope you pass along our web address, bittermedicineblogs.com, to your friends and colleagues, and share our show to all your social media. Be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous podcasts. This has been a KWAZ radio production. Join us next time for another session of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Facebook at Bitter Medicine Show, Twitter, Bitter Meds, Tumblr, Bitter Meds, Instagram, Bitter Medicine.